The intentional walk. And you know that Sparky Anderson directs his pitchers to give a lot of intentional walks. The Tiger pitchers have given 56 intentional walks this year. However, it might come as a surprise to you. Detroit is being chased in that area by Toronto. Toronto has given up 54 intentional walks. So these two managers think a great deal alike, which makes it even more of a surprise that Trammell doubled into the corner to drive in Gibson. Matt Noakes at the plate. And he lifts one to deep right field. Back goes Barfield on the track, and it is gone. Home run, Detroit. So the Tigers in this series led 2-0 Thursday night and lost 4-3. They led 2-0 last night and lost 3-2, and they lead 3-0 in the first inning today. Stieb has allowed 16 home runs.
That wind is blowing out to right field in batting practice. That's where they were really going out of. And in fact, Mullenix of the Blue Jays said to hit one out in left field, you're really going to have to hit it low and crush it. But right field, it is really carrying, and Noakes just proved that.
Noakes, by the way, had failed to come up with a hit in his last 14 at-bats. So when he does come up, he hits the jackpot. There's a strike to Dave Bergman playing first base. By the way, another interesting note about that home run. As a roller to the right side, you have two teams hitting over 200 home runs. That's the first one in this series. But it's a big one. 3 runs, 3 hits, nobody left. And at the end of half an inning, Detroit 3. Toronto already trailing 3-0, and their lineup reads this way. Nelson Liriano at second base and Lloyd Mosby in center. Rance Mullenix at third and George Bell in left. Ernie Witt behind the plate and Jesse Barfield in right. With Willie Upshaw at first. Terry Leach is the DH and Manny Lee at shortstop.
Defensively, Gibson, Lemon, and Sheridan in the outfield. Brookins, Trammell, Whitaker, Bergman in the infield. Noakes is the catcher. And Terrell is the pitcher. And interesting enough, then when I talked to Sparky about Terrell, he said he's primarily a fastball pitcher. Forget sinker. He'll run the ball in, but he'll also turn it over. But he throws mostly fastballs.
Interesting, you said forget the sinker, because he has a very bad record on AstroTurf. In the last 2 years, he is 1-6 with an earned run average of over 6 on the rug. Now, coming into this game, if you look at that won and loss record of 16-10, you realize he's an overwhelming favorite at Tiger Stadium. He's 12-2 in Detroit. But when he's on the road, 4 wins and 8 losses. But he comes in here a hot pitcher, and he faces Nelson Liriano, and there's ball 1. Terrell has not only won 6 straight starts, he's won his last 7 decisions, and Liriano, a tough hitter, to start it off. 3-0 Detroit in the first. In there, the umpires, Tim McClelland is the plate umpire, John Shulock, Ken Kaiser, and Jim McKean. And Jim McKean really should have a salute. The third base umpire is playing under a great deal of duress today. He was the plate umpire last night, and Mike Heath brought his arm back and hit one that dislocated McKean's jaw. And Liriano trying to lead the Blue Jays back with a single up the middle.
Terrell looked like he was in position to field it, but it was right through the wicket.
So Nelson Liriano with a single to center, and now Lloyd Mosby, followed by Rance Mullenix and George Bell.
Might add on McKeon, too. He got a little tough when they showed the replay here at the ballpark of the Madlock play.
Oh, yeah. And rightfully so.
Right.
All right, Liriano at first base. 3-0 in favor of Detroit in the first inning. 1 ball and no strike. Liriano, with good speed, has stolen 9 out of 11, so they'll keep an eye on him. And so will we. Walt Terrell, 1-0 against Toronto this year, 3-4 lifetime. And he's high with that. 2-0. Kansas City, Minnesota. They're in the 7th inning, all tied up 4-4. To repeat, we will also keep track of the Cardinal-Cub game. We told you Terrell has won his last 3 straight on the road, but before that it was really lean going, and his only road win was the 15th of June when he beat Toronto and Jimmy Key here 2-1. And he's high, so he's struggling now.
Looks like he might be trying to aim that ball for some reason. He really has not cut it loose.
3-0, the count to Lloyd Mosby. And then, of course, you get into the deep water, Mullenix, Bell, and Witt. And he's walked him, and all of a sudden a tying run's at the plate. And Sparky Anderson has to really squirm when you lose the first 2 games of such an important series and take a 2-0 lead in each game. And now suddenly, see, you get 3 in the first inning and the Jays come right back. You really have to worry. Of course, Sparky, you know, played here. He played 4 years in Toronto, so he knows the city very well. 2 on, nobody out, and here is Rance Mullenix. Mullenix, 3 of his last 7 hits have been home runs. And he drives it into right center. Lemon trying to run it down, and this one is going to go against the wall. In comes Liriano. In comes Mosby on a double by Mullenix.
Ben, I think the fellow who deserves a lot of credit on that is the batting coach, Cito Gaston. Before the game, as we watched his hit, talking about it, hitting, he says he tries to impress upon him to get selective, and by that he means look for a particular pitch. And he said Mullenix does it better than anybody on the team. I said, what pitch will he be looking for? He said he'll be looking for the fastball. I said, is that not guessing? He said, no, guessing is when you change with each pitch. He said, but when they go up looking for a particular pitch that time at bat and get the job done, that's hitting, and that's what Mullenix did.
And he also brought the Blue Jays right back into the game. So it is 3-2 in favor of Detroit. And George Bell, the big guy with a 7-game hitting streak, trying to pick up Mullenix and tie it up. George with those 47 home runs, that's a new Latin mark. And he was trying to hit number 48. He surpassed Orlando Cepeda for most home runs by a Latin American player. He's the only Blue Jays player ever to have back-to-back 100 runs and 100 RBIs. So you can understand why he is such a prime candidate for the Most Valuable Player award. So the tying run is at second base, nobody out. 3-2 Detroit. We're in the first inning. Mullenix had just chased in 2, waiting at the plate. Fouled away. Mullenix, by the way, it figured he would hurt Detroit. He's hurt them all year. He's hitting well over 400 with 2 RBI, 2 home runs against Detroit, and he picked up 2 RBIs with 1 swing in the first inning.
George says he swings the same fastball, curveball, change of pace. He said it's just hand-eye coordination.
0-2. You know, during the winter down in the Dominican Republic, the fans ring cowbells in honor of George Bell. And here in Toronto, there are thousands now with small bells that they ring when George comes up to hit. That's got to make him feel at home. His dad was a locomotive engineer in the Dominican. He ran the locomotive to and from the cane fields. And come to think of it, George Bell is certainly at the wheel running the locomotive for Toronto. 2-2 to George Bell, trying to get Mullenix home and get the Jays even. It's 3-2 Detroit in a wild first inning. And he really fought off a good breaking ball down and away. Sign of a very good hitter, just to even make contact and stay alive at the plate. You want to see a bird's eye view of a ball game? I would guess you are as far away from the scene of action here at Exhibition Stadium in Toronto, more so than any other ballpark anywhere. If you look in right center field, the right-hand corner of your screen, look at that. That's about 600, 700 feet away at least. But they're here. 3 straight years they've drawn over $2 million. 2-2. Ball 3. Boy, Terrell is really struggling.
And that's the one thing that they didn't want to have happen is Toronto to come back. When you score 3, you want to shut that other ball club down. But right now, this Toronto ball club grabbed that momentum right away.
So 3-2, the count of George Bell. A very hot Ernie Witt on deck, and he takes him into right field for a base hit. Mullenix will hold at third.
Talked about the same swing. That's not the George Bell swing, 3-2. He just kind of went with that pitch and was going to put the ball in play, and he did. Look at him reach out. You can see he had hardly anybody behind it. Sparky Anderson comes out to talk to his pitcher. He's got to talk to him because Ernie Witt has really been a hot hitter. And this is one of Gaston's pet projects. And Ernie, some people say he opened his stance, but he's not opened his stance that much. Last year he had an open stance. And when you talk to him about his thinking, he said, I'm just a little more selective.
Well, Sparky Anderson, as we mentioned, he played here in 1960, 61, 62, and 63. He knows all about the lovely city of Toronto on the shores of Lake Huron, but he doesn't like what he's seeing now. He's already blown 2 leads, and he's on the edge of blowing a 3rd lead in the 1st inning today. So with runners at 1st and 3rd, and nobody out in the 1st inning, Ernie Witt the batter, Dan Petrie in the pen, and the Jays trying to fly off with it again. We talked before about RBIs in September. It is Ernie Witt who has more September RBIs than George Bell. Witt has 19. So he's really done a great job. Ground ball to the right side. Whitaker to Trammell. Back to Bergman. They get the double play. Scoring is Mullenix. And we are where we started. All even at 3.
Trammell really makes a good pivot on this. Whitaker gives him a good ball to handle, but watch him get out of the way.
You have to remember when you look at Whitaker and Trammell around the bag at second, they have been the double play combination for 10 years. To my knowledge, there's no other double play combination to last that long. 10 years. Good breaking ball to Barfield. Jesse has certainly put a dent in the Tigers this year. He's hitting over .420 against Detroit pitching. And he's red hot with 15 hits in his last 39 at-bats. The club's all-time home run leader with 156. And as usual, very impressive numbers. After a very dismal July and August, he hit only 170 in August. He's hitting close to 340 during September. So Barfield is back, and the Blue Jays are really making noise. Meanwhile, the St. Louis Cardinals and John Tudor leading Rick Sutcliffe 2-0. Dan Dreesen playing for Jack Clark. It's a 2-run home run.
Terrell has picked up his pace as far as deliveries, and Barfield won't let him do that. He's not letting him get into a rhythm.
1-2 the count to Jesse Barfield. Breaking ball, sliced to right center, and Lemon can't get it. It bounces by Sheridan, and into second base goes Barfield with a double.
That play seemed to develop in slow motion. The ball was not hit hard off the end of the bat. Lemon feels like he can't get it. He's going to back up Sheridan. It goes right over his head, and once that happens, it's a 2-base hit for Barfield.
So Willie Upshaw will come up, and in a 1st inning that has seen the Blue Jays get a walk, 2 singles and 2 doubles after Detroit had 2 doubles and a home run. And we're 3-3 in the 1st inning, and there's a strike to Willie Upshaw. So with 12 batters in the game, we've had 4 doubles and a home run. Upshaw struggling, hitless in his last 13 at-bats. The Mets get a run, but they have a long way to go. The Pirates and Doug Graybeck leading Dwight Gooden and New York 5-1. Ball 2. 2-1 the count. Willie Upshaw, the number 7 hitter in the Blue Jay lineup.
Terrell has only thrown one curveball that has really snapped off for a strike. He does not have a good curveball yet.
And he's outside for ball 3. So for someone who has won his last 6 starts and has won his last 7 decisions, he is really struggling on a breezy day in Toronto.
Now, if you're Upshaw, you just got to sit on a fastball, pick a zone, and if it gets in there, go to work on it.
And he walked him. So with runners at first and second, Barry Leach coming up. And Sparky continues to look at his notes and try and figure out how in the world he can finish Walt Terrell. So Rick Leach with Dan Petrie in the bullpen and Walt Terrell on the ropes.
Got to watch that first pitch here, because if he starts to aim it, Leach is liable to drill it.
Ball 1. Rick has not been hitting too well in the last 2 weeks. He's hit about 240.
Then he's made 28 pitches already, 15 balls, 13 strikes.
There's ball 2, 2-0. So Terrell on the edge. Manny Lee is on deck.
Well, you know he's hitting here, so here's his first big crisis of the game. He may be out after this pitch if Leach drills it.
Barfield at second, Upshaw at first. And it's hit back off Terrell's glove. He comes up with it, lobs to Bergman, and the inning is over. But it took 8 men to come to the plate. 3 come home, and at the end of an inning, we're all even, 3-3. In that Mets game, with the Pirates leading the Mets 5-1 in the 4th inning, they batted for Dwight Gooden, so John Mitchell is now pitching for New York. So the Mets are losing, and the Cardinals are winning 2-0 on Dan Driesen's home run. Lemon has hit in 7 straight, and he's hit .320 over that stretch, so he's hot. Foul ball. Alex Grammas coaching at third, Dick Trasuski over at first. So they come out of the chute breathing fire today, a 3-3 tie, and we're in the top of the 2nd inning. Dave Stieb and Walt Terrell. The matchup tomorrow figures to be Jim Clancy and Doyle Alexander. And that takes care of Lemon.
There is a difference in Steve, the way you saw him when he came up in the big winter and when he was having his problems. He just challenged Lemon with a good fastball. His manager says he just brought September of '86 into '87. He said he had a good September in '86, and he's not nibbling. He's challenging and it's basics again.
And perhaps back even to the way he was pitching in July and August. You know, from the 10th of July to the middle of August, Stieb had a 7-game winning streak. Pat Sheridan is struggling with the bat, but he's a left-hand batter. But to give you an idea, for over a month now, that translates he's hitting less than a buck. 0.82. No swing, says Jim McKeon. 2-1 to count to Pat Sheridan with Tom Brookins on deck. Fouled away. One thing about Sheridan, it's interesting. He went into that mammoth slump, okay? Fine. It brought his average to 262. You know what his lifetime batting average is? 262. That's the amazing thing about baseball. They always bring you back to where you belong. 3-2 to Pat Sheridan.
That's why it's always great in the spring to see who's going to be above that Mendoza line when they really belong below it.
Yeah, right.
Because in July they'll be there.
He was playing over his head. Now they say he's in a slump. Nope, he's just gone back to where he belongs. 3-2 the count to Pat. 1 out in the 2nd inning, a 3-3 tie. Game 3 of the Magnificent 7. They're here tomorrow. And next weekend, a 3-game series in Detroit. And that should be it. Well, breaking ball got him, and it was a dandy.
That was the best curveball he's thrown today. And when you talk to his catcher, that's what he says, that he's this fastball, slider, and curveball. No change in speeds on his own, no trick pitches, and challenging. And I tell you, when pitchers start to change speeds on their own, they're telling you something. This curveball was just a dandy. It was an equalizer.
Remember, they talked, too, about Dave Stieb having a tender elbow. And the fact that one stretch he walked something like 10 batters of the 31 he faced, and they sent him to the bullpen. But he's come back now and appears to have his rhythm. And facing Tom Brookins, a count 0-1. Brookins has a little 5-game hitting streak.
I'd say right now, Ernie Witt behind the plate, he's got 2 great pitchers to work with, that hard fastball and that hard curveball.
Here he comes, 1-1. And it's hit in the air down the right field line. The wind will blow it more, and coming over is Barfield to make the grab in foul ground. Nice play by Jesse. The wind was actually going to blow that thing towards the seats. And the Tigers are retired in order. And at the end of an inning and a half, as we see Jesse make the play, they're all tied at 3.
You're looking at the mound in the bullpen. Just want to point out to you how it's built up, which makes it very dangerous. And I'm sure Barfield had in mind in right field when he went after that ball, man.
And how Manny Lee takes a pitch high, ball 1. All you have to do is look out towards right field and realize there's plenty of room to put bullpens back of right field. And yet, by putting them where they are, they interfere definitely with the ball in play. I mean, you could put 10 bullpens out there. And they got him wedged in the corner. Manny Lee, called up, of course, from Syracuse. He had played for 3 months with Nelson Liriano. And Liriano came up to play with Tony Fernandez. Fernandez out with a bad elbow, and Manny Lee called up to play short. And someone is calling up from the Detroit dugout. And the plate umpire, Tim McClelland, has given somebody the boot. Alex Grammas, I didn't say a word, he said. Alex Grammas said, I didn't say a word. Billy Muffet is out there, and it's Muffet saying I didn't say a word.
Sparky had words with McClelland between innings, and Shulock is trying to calm Muffet down. But apparently they were on McClelland, and Sparky had talked to him between innings. And apparently they have been jawing pretty good, but I guarantee you that McClelland had somebody earmarked in that first inning, and Sparky was trying to put out that fire in the first word that was said, and apparently it was Muffet.
And Muffet was hollering, I didn't say a word.
When that happens, they're ready from the first inning on. Somebody hollered. They struck a nerve, obviously, in that first inning.
The baseball parlance, of course, is pinching. A plate umpire is pinching the plate on the pitcher, and obviously that would be the Detroit argument.
Now McClelland walks over to get into the argument. He ought to just stay out and let Sparky have it with McKee, and they're going to get back into it again. The thing that runs a manager's crazy, I think, is when umpires always say inside or outside. I know Leo would get that way. Umpires never say up or down because when the dugout is at field level, they'll go inside and outside. And I remember DeRocher screaming one day, isn't there ever a pitch that's high? Because you can't argue when they say inside or outside. You can't see it.
You remember at the end of 1 inning, we had a quick look of Sparky talking to the umpires. Now, here's the pitch that really caused the problem. And the count is 2 balls and 1 strike. The question now is whether Muffet was dispatched or not. Fly ball to Chet Lemon. We saw Muffet leave the bench and go up the runway, but whether he was ejected from the game or not remains to be seen.
Oh, I've got to believe he's gone, man.
Of course, that's some defense if you say I didn't say a word. It was somebody else.
And that can happen.
Yep.
I mean, they've sent guys out. They see just a bunch of faces when they look over there, and they just say, you're gone, and it could be somebody else.
Nelson Liriano, when it was 3-0 Detroit, came up in the bottom of the first, single to center. And the Blue Jays came right back with 3 to get even. Check swing for a strike, and the count 0-1.
Brookins at third base really playing shallow. He was in on Lee, and he's in even tighter on Liriano.
These two teams met 6 times in 9 days in June. And Detroit won 2 out of 3 here. Toronto won 2 out of 3 in Detroit. Now they play 7 times starting the other night through next Sunday. Two and 1 to Nelson Liriano. Ball 3. And that's hammered to right. Going back on the ball is Sheridan, but it's off the wall. Double for Nelson Liriano.
There was the perfect example of getting behind the hitter, and you're in the jackpot when you do. He had to come in with the fastball, and Liriano was sitting on it, because if you are going to look for a particular pitch off Terrell, it is going to be the fastball.
So Liriano, who already gave Terrell a bad time in the first inning, is now 2 for 2 with his double. 1 ball and no strikes to Lloyd Mosby. Mosby walked, scored in the first inning on the double by Rance Mullenix. Fouled away off third, out of play, and the count 1-1. The Pirates' Met score remains 5-1 in the 5th inning. And we now get word, it is official, pitching coach Billy Muffet was ejected by the plate umpire Tim McClelland. Mosby trying to pick up Liriano in a 3-3 tie and pops it up into that tricky breeze, and it'll be Brookins and Trammell takes over. 2 down.
It's not an automatic fine for Muffet, is it, as we look at the bench? Getting thrown out? I don't think it is.
I'm not sure, but he didn't throw any equipment or anything like that. Trasuski and Grammas flanking Sparky. I think maybe it depends on the umpire's report, right? Depending on the language used and all that. But Muffet proclaiming his innocence, saying, I never said a word. That's a tough defense to crack, isn't it?
It's also the most used defense.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it's the one that's worked least.
Rance Mullenix hitting over 400 against Detroit and came right up and doubled home 2 runs in the first inning, and then he came in to score the tying run.
Hit the first pitch last time.
1 ball and no strikes. You have to watch that bat of his. He carries a little thunder in it. 3 of his last 8 hits have been home runs. Earlier, he had a 10-game hitting streak. And he's pretty much the third baseman. He had moved around a little bit, but since first week in August, he's played nothing but third. That's a strike. Rance Mullenix hitting .307.
You don't think they watch other hitters? He was the one in batting practice who said, you can't hit it out of left field today. He says, Barfield crushed one. And then he turned to me and he said, watch, first time up, somebody will hit one out, because I said that.
Well, Noakes hit one out, but it went to right. That's hit foul off third and just about out of the ballpark, way up near the top row. 1-2 the count. The Rance Mullenix with George Bell on deck. Detroit facing a Toronto ball club that has a lot of power in a lot of areas. There are 9 different players on the Toronto team with at least 10 home runs. Only 12 teams in history to have that kind of a club. Ground ball hard to Whitaker, and that's that. So Liriano doubles and they leave him. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Don't forget tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern Time, an expanded report on NFL Live. Bob Costas brings you all the latest developments in the NFL player strike. And then stay tuned for a special edition of Major League Baseball. Game 4 of the series between the Tigers and the Blue Jays. Others will see the Cardinals versus the Cubs. All coming up tomorrow. But we're just starting today. Third inning, 3-3 tie. Foul ball outside of third by Whitaker, 0-1.
Ben, just as a footnote to tomorrow's schedule, baseball, not wanting to look like they're taking advantage of the football strike, what rights money paid by the networks is going to BAT, the baseball alumni team, to help ball players who are hurting, which I think is great.
And how?
And I would like to add, if any ball players are out there, former major leaguers who are hurting, let us know. There's money there, and maybe we can help you.
You'll hear.
I hope.
Roller up along first, foul.
In fact, I hope not. I would hope we'd go out of business. There wouldn't be any hurting, but if there are, do let us know.
Cardinals leading the Cubs 2-0 in the second inning. The Pirates are leading the Mets 5-1 in the fourth, last we heard. Whitaker grounded out in the first inning, rolling one to Willie Upshaw. Promptly bangs it to center for a base hit. A 3-3 tie in the third. Shaping up to be anything but a pitching duel, as Stieb now must pitch to Evans, Gibson, and Trammell.
Sparky really gives Evans a lot of credit for making this ball club really work as we watch Whitaker get that base hit.
A problem for Whitaker this year, he's striking out more than ever, but you wouldn't know it as he walked up and stroked that single. You can see Kansas City turning it around on Minnesota, breaking that 4-4 tie and leading 7-4. Danny Tartable's 3-run home run. Darrell Evans with his 31 home runs and teammate Matt Noakes with his 30th. That gives the Tigers a pair of 30 home run hitters. They haven't had that since 1962, Norm Cash and Rocky Colavito. Cash hit 39 that year, and the Rock hit 37. 2-0, the count at Darrell Evans. Pretty good breaking ball. It looked like it was going to be outside, and then it just kind of moved over and got a piece of the corner.
You saw that pitch. He took a shot there. He came in the back door to catch that outside corner. That's a Bob Gibson theory. Inside is a single, is a home run. Outside is a single. He's trying to keep that ball away from Evans.
Darrell holding back on that pitch. Evans needing 5 RBIs to reach 100 for the second time in his career. What's interesting, the last time he had over 100 was way back in 1973. And he's got a walk. And now Stieb is in a jam. First and second. Nobody out, with Gibson, Trammell, and Noakes coming up.
Gibson's supposed to have a bad leg, but the way he ran that double out, looks like he's all right. Now Jimmy Williams wants to come out and talk to his pitcher.
Down in the bullpen, John Cerruti. And when you realize that the Tigers have struggled so much against left-handers, they're 9 under 500 against left-hand pitching. It was a big decision for Jimmy Williams to go with Stieb instead of Cerruti in a starting role. So you have Gibson, a left-hander, Trammell, a right-hander, and Noakes, a left-hander, coming up. Jimmy Williams, his first major league at-bat, he struck out against Sandy Koufax. And his first 2 major league base hits were against Juan Marichal. Not a bad way to break in.
Not a bad way at all.
2 on, nobody out. Here's Gibson.
Davy Johnson always says the last hit he got was off Koufax.
Right.
And Sandy says, and that's why I quit.
Kirk Gibson doubled in the first inning and scored. Double to left. Way out in front of that breaking ball. 0-1. Gibson, who went 0 for 5 last night, has hit in 4 of his last 5 games. 2 on, nobody out in the third inning of a 3-3 tie. Lou Whitaker at second, Darrell Evans at first, Gibson with Trammell on deck. Another breaking ball. Boy, he's thrown a lot of them now.
He's letting up on that curveball. It's not that real hard breaking ball, and Gibson has been way out in front on both pitches.
0-2 to Kirk Gibson. There's that rainbow. Boy, the bottom drops out of it into the dirt.
Witt did a good job getting down, keeping that ball in front of him.
Sparky pacing already, and we're only in the third. A little nubber, and it's going to be a fair ball. The tag is made, and the runners move up. Well, if nothing else, they have a place to put Trammell. So Gibson is tagged out by Ernie Witt. Runners move up 90 feet.
Looked like he taps it right on top of home plate. It hit the plate, and Gibson's going to umpire that play. See, McClellan calls fair ball, and Witt just has to tag him, and good base running by Evans and by Whitaker.
So now let's see what they do with Alan Trammell. They're going to walk him intentionally. While they walk him, and Jimmy Williams talks to the bullpen, we can send along our congratulations to Alan and to Barbara Trammell. They became parents of a daughter yesterday. The Trammells have 2 sons. Alan now getting the intentional walk. Again, we bring up that note. Detroit is known as a team that gives up a lot of intentional walks. But Jimmy Williams is just one back of Sparky now in intentionals allowed.
It's been a while we got a chance here. Veda Pinson, one of the Tiger coaches. Jimmy Williams coming out again. Looks like Stieb is gone. He is gone. Veda Pinson not with the club. His mother, Vivian Pinson, is in the hospital in Oakland, California, and the message is Junior's on his way home, and he loves you. That's the message that he left for Vin and I to deliver, and we're happy to deliver it and be happy when Vivian Pinson is out of the hospital.
Yeah, speedy recovery. Well, Dave Stieb goes out with the bases loaded and 1 out in a 3-3 tie. John Cerruti picking up the pieces for Dave Stieb. The bases are loaded with 1 out in the third inning. Cerruti with a record of 11-4, 2-0 in relief. So the bases loaded with Trammell, Evans, and Whitaker. And Matt Noakes, ball 1. Noakes hit a home run in the first inning. Matt has 1 grand slam this year, but of all of his home runs, he's only hit 2 home runs against left-hand pitching. On deck, another left-hand hitter, Dave Bergman. So 3-3 in the third, 1 out. That's on the inside corner at the knee. Good pitch, 1-1. Cerruti from Albany, New York. Jimmy Williams hoping his left-hander can bail him out of a jam. Good save by Ernie Witt. 2-1. Told you we're going to keep an eye on as many games as possible that have bearing on the races in Pittsburgh, giving the Mets a bad time. 5-1 in the 6th. Mets got a run, but they hit for Gooden and Doug Drabek, pitching that game for Pittsburgh. 2-1 to Matt Noakes with the bases loaded, 1 out, 3-3 in the third. You got all the threes you can have when you look at Matt Noakes facing John Cerruti. Noakes, who wears number 33, so he's carrying the score on his back, and the bases loaded. Whitaker, Evans, and Trammell. Ground ball, foul. Foul ball down the line. Into the Tiger bullpen. John Shulock right there to call it. For Detroit, almost a must game. They're 2.5 games back. They can't afford to slide back anymore. Toronto, the luxury of a bad day. having already won 2 big ones. Little roller, foul. So the Tigers saw a 3-0 lead go right down the drain. They saw Detroit come back with 3. Now they're trying to come back with a bunch. Tigers, the #1 home run hitting team in the American League with 212. And that's hit foul. Back of the plate, off to the left and out of play.
Noakes has seen every pitch that Cerruti's got. He's the slow curveball he pulled foul, and this fastball he just fouled it off, so he has seen it all.
John Cerruti picking up for Dave Stieb with the bases loaded, 1 out, 3-3 in the 3rd. Little roller foul again. Kansas City breaking a 4-4 tie. Danny Tartable's 3-run home run did it, and they knock off Minnesota 7-4. That is the standings as of the moment, including the Kansas City victory, back by 5. Two and 2 to Matt Noakes. He's fouled off 4 in a row. And he goes 3 and 2.
I tell you, regardless of what happens here, that's pretty good hitting when you can battle like that and work a pitcher deep in the count with the bases loaded.
So a full count with 1 out, bases loaded. 3-3. Fastball, foul back. At this spot, I guess you have to say to yourself, it's got to be fastball.
Yeah, but he's got the 2 strikes. He can't be sure of it, so he's got to sit on the fastball, but be sure that he gets ready to at least foul it off, fight it off. It's 11th pitch to Noakes, who has really battled with the bases loaded. It's a tough at-bat for him, but it's really been a good battle.
Cardinals holding on to a 2-0 lead. That's John Tudor and Rick Sutcliffe. Dan Dreesen hit a 2-run home run. Fastball and a high drive into deep right. The wind's got it. It is a grand slam home run. Once it got up into that tailwind, and he hit it hard enough anyway, there was no chance for Barfield to make a catch. His 2nd grand slam of the year. Strike to Dave Bergman, and only his 3rd home run against a left-hand pitcher this year.
I tell you, it was a great piece of hitting when he got that count to 3 and 2. It goes back to, you don't go check a pitcher's wildness by how many base on balls he gives.
So it is 7-3 in favor of Detroit, and that means Noakes has knocked in 6 of the 7 runs. Cerruti is a gamble when you bring him in because he gives up a lot of home runs. That was the 29th home run he's allowed and the 2nd slam he's given up.
When pitchers go deep in the count, 2-2, 3-2, and they have to come in there, the percentage at that particular time was on Noakes' side, and he just leveled it.
So that breaks it wide open. Foul ball.
Bergman has not had a good cut. If he threw him a curveball right now, he'd just strike him out.
Once again, we'll remind our viewers we'll be selecting the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game at the conclusion of the ball game. And, of course, right now, Matt Noakes is an odds-on favorite with 6 RBIs, 2 home runs. So Dave Bergman making Cerruti work. So Stieb got into a jam. And it made sense to bring Cerruti in to pitch to Noakes. And Jimmy Williams can file that one under the best laid plans of mice and men as Bergman strikes out. The batter now will be Chet Lemon. The only single, Lou Whitaker, who singled to center. That doubles by Gibson and Trammell, and 2 home runs by Noakes. High fly ball down the right field line, a trio of Jays, and it's Barfield. However, the damage was more than done. A grand slam by Noakes. Here's a look back at a very special Olympic moment. Well, Detroit doing what is so difficult. Get out in front, squander the lead, and then come back and have a lead of your own.
Here's where Terrell really has to shut him down because he had that 3-run lead, and the ball club is now up once again. Terrell cannot let Toronto score this inning.
And remember, Sparky figures he has his trump card in the deck still to be played tomorrow. Doyle Alexander with a great record of 8-0. So the Tigers win today and then come back with Alexander. They figure they go home trailing by half a game.
And be happy.
And it's going to be a wild week to go. Let's find out about the rest of this one. Yes, George Bell for MVP. That is certainly the strong feeling here in Toronto. And, of course, in Detroit, they would hang the same sign applicable to the name Alan Trammell. Well, here's George Bell right now. Had something to say to Matt Noakes, no doubt about putting up a big number on the scoreboard. George Bell is single to right in the first inning, hitting a breaking ball with his hips almost in the Toronto dugout. He was still able to reach out. This time he pulls it over third and down the line. And Bell on his way for a stand-up double. So the Blue Jays trying to come right back again. Boy, has this been a wild game. That's the 4th double for Toronto. So with Bell at second, Witt, Barfield, and Upshaw. It is 7-3 Detroit, but this one is a long way from being written. Ernie Witt hit into a double play in the first inning.
You have to answer to the ball club when they score, and Toronto had the perfect guy up there, George Bell, who just promptly doubles and says, okay, you got 4, we're going to get some.
Show you how well the Toronto Blue Jays have been playing. They've lost only 2 of their last 18 series. They lost to the Angels in August on the road. They lost to the Yankees here in June. Otherwise, they have either tied or won every series they've played, and they're assured of at least a tie in the 4-game series right now. So Bell takes third on the out, and it'll bring up Jesse Barfield. Barfield doubled in the first inning. Jesse trying to pick up George Bell from third. 7-3 Detroit. Bottom of the third, 1 out. Dan Petrie has been up in the Tiger bullpen. Walt Terrell faced 8 men in the first inning, so he's up again. Foul back. If you joined us a little late, Noakes hit a home run with a man aboard in the first inning. The Tigers scored 3. Toronto came right back, sent 8 men to the plate, and scored 3 to tie it up. And then Noakes hit a grand slam in the top of the third. So it is 7-3 Tigers. That's a strike.
Maybe it's my depth perception in this park, Ben, but Chet Lemon looks like he's so far out there he may need a ticket.
It's 400 to straightaway center, and he's playing a deep center. 330 down the lines, 375 up the alleys here. 1-2. 2-2. Walt Terrell in his career is 10 games under 500 on the road. And that's hit to center. Lemon coming up, and it's going to go by him to the wall. So Bell will score, and Jesse Barfield is into third with one out. That was not played well at all by Chet Lemon.
I started to say, as deep as he was, and we pointed it out, it looked like he was playing that deep because he knows the sacrifice fly would score the run to cut off the angle. And he comes in to try to make a short hop, and once it gets by him, lucky they didn't get an inside the park home run. He did not try to cut that ball off. He tried to catch it, and it burned him.
And that will be all for Walt Terrell. He comes out, and as the starting pitcher, he will have nothing to do with it. He can't win or he can't lose. He didn't go the starting five. And it's a wild one in Toronto, 7-4 Detroit. Well, it might be the home of the Blue Jays, but it's turned into a hornet's nest. The Tigers leading the Blue Jays 7-4. Jesse Barfield of Toronto is at third with one out, and Willie Upshaw will try and pick him up. Now we're in the third inning. Detroit has 2 doubles, 2 home runs, including a slam, and Toronto has 4 doubles and a triple. We're just warming up. Dan Petrie is 9-6, and this is 9th relief assignment. No save.
Like 2 fat heavyweights keep knocking each other down. Last at bat's going to be important.
Boy. Little nubber up along third base. Petrie picks it and can't make a play. Upshaw with an infield single, and Barfield with the ball hit in front of him, wisely staying at third.
I wonder if that could have rolled foul. Somebody hollers him off the play because he had no chance to make the play.
So Petrie is immediately welcomed with a nubber for a hit. And Rick Leach, a designated hitter, coming up. Leach hit back to the box in the first inning. Leach hitting .278. Out at the plate, 0-1. So the starting pitchers, a long way from being finishing pitchers, they're finished. Dave Stieb, 2 1/3 innings, charged with 6 runs. Walt Terrell, 2 1/3 innings, charged with 4. And Barfield at third belongs to Terrell. It is not a surprise that Walt Terrell came out early. Remember, we told you in the last 2 years, he's won 1 and lost 6 on AstroTurf. One and one. If you're wondering about Upshaw at first, he has stolen 10 bases, but he's been caught 10 times. And Barfield at third has 2 stolen bases. He's been caught 5 times. So you don't really have a base running threat out there. Fouled away. Still 1-2.
Both these pitchers now in a position where you really become a no-name in a hurry because Petrie has to hold it for the closer, and Cerruti has to hold it to give his ball club a chance to get in the game.
So Rick Leach trying to get Toronto right back in it. The Pirates, meanwhile, leading the Mets handily 6-1 in the 7th inning. Slow curveball put him away. There's a big out as Dan Petrie comes in to slow up, and Big Bender to take care of Leach. Two out, first and third, and Manny Lee, the batter. Manny Lee flied to center in the second inning. Lee is switch hitter. His big numbers so far, however, as a right-handed batter. 4-1. He has 8 RBIs, but 6 of them from the other side of the plate, and has over a 120-point difference left and right. Two and 0 the count to Manny Lee. Willie Upshaw at first. Jesse Barfield at third. A run in. It is 7-4 Detroit, and we're still in the third inning. Fly ball down the left field line, and dying foul, and drops untouched. Brookins over to the tarp roller and kind of banged his toe a little bit as he hit it.
Kind of limping back. He was going to make that play. See what happens here. He finds the fence all right. It's his knee, his left knee. I think that's a big difference, Vin, from when I played. What just happened there, 2 balls and no strikes, and Lee, your 9th batter, hits the 2-0 pitch.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Let him take the pitch for a strike and get the top of that lineup up, and now we've got trainer coming out to take a look at Brookins.
Tommy refusing to rub, although it was obvious that he hit that tarp roller under a full head of steam. So first and third, 2 out in the third inning, 7-4 Detroit, and Manny Lee trying to keep the Blue Jays in the air.
And if you're going to let a guy hit 2-0, he's got to have himself a pretty good cut. That was really a defensive swing he took.
He does not have any power, at least he doesn't indicate any power in the big leagues. Played very well for 3 months at Syracuse. Ground ball to the hole, plugged up, juggled, and made the play by Lou Whitaker. So the big out was Rick Leach striking out. 1 run, 3 hits, and 2 left. 7-4 Detroit at the end of the 4th inning. Pat Sheridan, Tom Brookins, and then Lou Whitaker against left-handed John Cerruti. It is 7-4 in favor of Detroit. This will give you an idea of the games remaining. And then, of course, the last 3 against each other. Sheridan struck out in the second inning. Pat 0 for 1. And another. Right side, Liriano playing very deep, comes up to get him. 1 down. Basically, the biggest difference, I guess, between the two teams, Detroit relies so heavily on starting pitching. The bullpen has hurt them considerably. Where Jimmy Williams and the Blue Jays, he doesn't mind throwing 4 and 5 pitches at you. He feels the bullpen is the strength of his club. Sparky Anderson lost 2 games here, one with Jack Morris going the distance, and the other when he finally had to go into the bullpen and called in Willie Hernandez, he was burned. And of course, Detroit just recently picking up Dickie Knowles. John Cerruti, a starting pitcher who has turned into relief for a while and served up the grand slam to Matt Noakes. 1-2 the count to Tom Brookins. Got him. That's a second strikeout for Cerruti. And with 2 out on the 4th, Lou Whitaker coming up.
Just changed speeds, and Brookins was out in front of it.
So Cerruti burned by Noakes, now showing some signs of settling down, and it's a question of whether Toronto can come back against Dan Petrie. High pop fly on the left side, the wind blowing it. Ernie Witt is there. Tough play. So the Tigers, for the second time in 4 innings, are retired in order. Detroit 7, Toronto 4.
One antacid that can...
Nelson Liriano with a single and a double, 2 for 2 today. It is 7-4 Detroit in the bottom of the 4th inning. Dan Petrie relieving Walt Terrell. John Cerruti picking up for Dave Stieb. Toronto has won 5 of the previous 8 with Detroit, winning 3 of 5 here. 3-0.
I don't think it's that big a deal, Vin, but it is a bit distracting with the shadows of the light standard really covering the mound. So Petrie is in shadow, as you can see, and there's some along the infield. It's a good background provided here, though, because there's no reflection from center field, but it could be distracting with that shadow on the mound.
3-0 the count to Liriano. And that's a high strike up around the letters. 3-1 the count. The Cardinals still holding on to Dan Dreesen's 2-run home run with John Tudor out pitching Rick Sutcliffe 2-0. Pittsburgh running away from the Mets now, 8-1 in the 7th after the Mets hit for Dwight Gooden. He had given up 5 runs. And that's in there. Liriano, doing his job as a leadoff man, has been on twice and scored once. Single to center in the 1st inning, double to right in the 2nd.
Well, it's almost worth the lead paragraph in your story, taking a 3-1 pitch. It is news.
And he promptly bangs it to right, but Sheridan coming up to handle it. So Liriano lines out, 1 down, and Lloyd Mosby coming up. Mark Thurman throwing in the bullpen for Detroit. Lloyd Mosby walked and popped to short. Mosby 0 for 1. Tried to sharpshoot that outside corner. 1 ball and no strike to Lloyd. Fouled away. Mosby has gotten a lot of good-natured kidding after actually stealing first with the Chicago White Sox. But he's a pretty good base runner. In fact, he stole home against Boston in July. He can beat you a lot of ways. 1-1. Bangs that one up the middle, and that almost took a little bit of Petrie with it.
Boy, I can't help but just repeat the conversation with Cito Gaston when you see a base hit like that. You have to really be sitting on that pitch to wait. And he just sent it right back up the middle, and that's what Gaston preaches. Look for a particular pitch, take everything else, and if you get it, now, you could hit the slow curveball and the straight change if you're waiting for an off-speed pitch. That's his theory, and it's a good one.
Well, Mosby certainly ripped that one, and here's Rance Mullinick. Doubled and grounded out. His double knocked in Liriano and Mosby. That's a strike. 7-4 Detroit in a wild game. We're in the bottom of the 4th inning. Petrie's allowed 2 hits. So Toronto 4 runs, 9 hits. So Mosby, if nothing else, trying to distract a little bit. Whether he would try to run with his ball club down by 3 is questionable. But Mosby has stolen 31 bases, so he knows his way around the track. On deck, George Bell. One and one, and there goes Mosby. The pitch is low. The throw is high. He's in there. His 32nd stolen base.
I didn't really feel like he had that good a jump either, Vin. It looked like, I'd have to say he stole that on Noakes, who took a little bit of time getting rid of that ball. There's a straight steal. You see him looking for that bag. Head first slide. He's in there, not even close.
That has been one of the accusations about Matt Noakes. The only thing to soil an otherwise great year, the fact that he doesn't have an accurate arm and doesn't throw people out.
It may be that catching will not be his final position.
So Mosby at second, one away. And 2-1 to count to Rance Mullenix. Boy, he had a cut at that, didn't he?
He sure did.
2-2.
They go up there looking for a pitch, and when they get it, they really know what to do with it. You can see he was just talking to himself, disgusted that he did not hit that one because he definitely was looking for it.
Mullenix came into the game hitting over 300. And he has a double in 2 trips. And he rolls it to the right side to Whitaker, who makes the play to Bergman, and moving over to third is Mosby.
But that's the importance of that stolen base. That ball hit with Mosby on at first base. Your inning's over. You don't get the big guy up.
And here is the big guy, George Bell. George Bell has a single to right and a double to left. And look at those credentials. Not to mention 47 home runs. It is 7-4 Detroit. 2 out, Mosby at third in the 4th inning. Ball 1.
Boy, and he's a tough hitter. He got knocked down in that Yankee game, came right back, hit the ball a mile, got hit in the face, and he wanted to finish that game against the Red Sox, and they had to take him out to stop the bleeding.
Came back the next day and had 2 doubles.
He's a tough hitter.
1-0. Fastball and a high fly ball to right center. It's playable. Chet Lemon is there. So they leave Mosby at third at the end of 4, 7-4 Detroit. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Those numbers, the Blue Jays squandering opportunities. They're trailing by 3, and they've left a runner at third. Barfield in the third. Mosby left at third in the 4th. Meanwhile, the Tigers, who cleaned the bases with the grand slam by Matt Noakes, start afresh in the 5th inning. Darrell Evans, Kirk Gibson, and Alan Trammell. Ball 1. Evans grounded out and walked. 0 for 1. He hits one in the air to right, and the wind is going to blow that thing right out of the ballpark. Home run, Darrell Evans. So John Cerruti has given up 2 hits, 2 home runs, a grand slam by Noakes and a home run by Evans. And for John Cerruti, the home run ball has just killed him. He has now allowed 30 home runs.
You could see Barfield, as soon as the ball was hit, just look and watch it sail over the fence, and the Tiger bench really alive.
The flags atop the scoreboard in right field are almost at right angles to the poles. So that steady wind, any fly ball to fairly deep right field is going to go out. There they are. Kirk Gibson has doubled and grounded out. Remember, he topped the ball in front of the plate and was tagged out for his troubles in the 3rd inning. Kirk doubled and scored a run in the 1st. 8-4 Detroit in the 5th. Tomorrow, Jim Clancy and Doyle Alexander. Alexander 8 wins and no losses. Jim Clancy 15-10. And we'll be right here to send it to you. Right. On deck, Alan Trammell.
Sparky and Doyle Alexander. Interesting that Sparky calls this his most satisfying year, and I said to him, how could you say that when you had the 75 Cincinnati club? He said it's not the same. He said it's easy to go to the prom when you're the prettiest one. I was supposed to win with Cincinnati. This ball club, they didn't give me much of a chance. He's right.
Indeed. There were a lot of people who figured Detroit maybe to be 4th or 5th. And we'll have more bullpen activity. Jimmy Williams heading to the mound. John Cerruti has hurt him. He brought Cerruti in with the bases loaded to face the left-hand hitting Matt Noakes, and Cerruti surrendered a grand slam. And now here in the 5th inning, another left-hand hitter has taken him deep, Darrell Evans. Alan Trammell, a right-hand batter, with Ward loosening up in the bullpen. Dwayne Ward.
You talk about Trammell hitting fourth. Sparky's reason, I said, what made you want to put him in a fourth spot? He said, we didn't have power. I wanted somebody who would make contact. And that was the important thing, not power, to make contact. And Trammell could make contact. I said, well, Whitaker makes good contact. And Sparky says, well, he just could not handle it as well as Trammell. And Trammell's become quite a fourth-place hitter.
Well, just to follow that thought and understand what he means about it, Alan Trammell this year, with all of his power, has struck out only 43 times. Whitaker, with half the power, has struck out 106 times.
Well, Sparky always says, well, I was just lucky in the move.
Yeah, sure.
Good planning helps luck.
And there's one hit into left center field. On the run is Bell, and he can't get it. It's chased by Mosby. Gibson to third, and they will hold him on the double by Trammell.
Gibson had to hold about 10 steps from second base because it looked like Bell might make that play. And Gramus watching all the way. Gibson was running hard, but Gramus was holding him up. Bell looked like he had a chance to make that play.
The runners at second and third, nobody out. The crowd hollering to Jimmy Williams to go to the bullpen. And Matt Noakes will get the intentional walk. So with Dwayne Ward, a right-hander in the pen, they're going to have a left-hand hitter, Dave Bergman, coming up next. But the crowd isn't looking ahead. They want the hook for Cerruti, and right now.
You remember, he struck Bergman out, Cerruti did. Curveballs, and then got him with the fastball, and looked like Dave was having some problems picking the ball up.
Cerruti has allowed 3 hits, 2 home runs, one of them a grand slam and a double. The slam was hit by Matt Noakes, first batter that Cerruti faced in the 3rd inning. And there was no doubt about it. He hit it well beyond the right field fence. So far, that has been the key blow. Now Matt Noakes with 2 home runs and a walk. It's the 3rd time that he's had 2 home runs in a game. But the 6 RBIs are a career high for him. And Bergman will be called back because Sparky has a chance to get a bunch of runs. Jim Morrison, who came over from Pittsburgh, will be coming up. And Jimmy Williams talking to the bullpen to see if Dwayne Ward is ready. So Ward is down there. Morrison is loosening up. We'll see if Williams comes out to take out Cerruti or not.
I think just pointing out what you said before, Ben, that Williams can just right and left you to death. I mean, you bring in a hitter, he can bring in a pitcher. See if he does.
Now his catcher, Ernie Witt, going out to the mound. We'll see if all of that is to determine and eat up a little time.
That's exactly what he's doing. He's going to go out there and just visit with him, ask him about his family.
Morrison started off pretty well when he first came over to Detroit, but he has slumped badly. And he'll be coming up with the bases loaded.
It's one of those spots where you say to the pitcher, now when the umpire starts, you tell me and I'll go back to the plate. And that's exactly what happened. A lot of times you get a sign from the manager to go out there and talk to him. I'm not saying that's happening now, but you go out there to kill some time, and here he comes. It was all part of the charade.
Oh, sure. All right, Dwayne Ward will be called in to pitch to Jim Morrison with the bases loaded, and it is 8-4 Detroit in the 5th inning. Nobody out. We'll be back. 23-year-old Dwayne Ward from New Mexico trying to hold on to a runaway horse here. It's 8-4 Detroit. Maybe it's a runaway tiger as Morrison fouls it away. So John Cerruti worked an inning and 2/3, gave up at least 2 runs and 3 hits. The starter, Dave Stieb, was charged with 6 runs. And Morrison trying to really break it open. Noakes at first, Trammell at second, Gibson at third. High chopper to first. Upshaw will have to flip to Ward just in time. Close play. Everybody moves up 90 as Gibson brings the run home, and it is 9-4 Detroit. Ward just got his foot in there ahead of Morrison. That run is charged to Cerruti. So one down, runners at second and third. Chet Lemon will be the batter, and the infield has to come up. Lemon has struck out and flied to right. The Cardinals leading the Cubs 2-0, top of the fifth inning. And the Mets were losing big last we saw it. A roller up along third, foul, and the count 0-1. Ground ball, Alex Grammas. Lemon with a 7-game hitting streak, 0 for 2. Lee Mazzilli hit a home run with nobody on, but not enough to really help. Pittsburgh leading handily 8-2 in the ninth inning. The Cardinals leading the Cubs 2-0 in the fifth. A game that would almost blow the Mets out of it. Time really running out.
Then just watching Trammell at third, looks like if Lemon does make contact, Trammell's coming on any contact.
0-2 to Chet. Ball one.
A lot of times they'll say make that ball go through, but he's been breaking, and if it's a ground ball, he's going to, chances are, gets through fine. If not, he'll get caught in a rundown.
One out here in the fifth inning. 2 runs in. 9-4 Detroit. Tigers now in a spot where they would be happy enough to get out of here with a split, but they have to win today and tomorrow to get the split. And it's Clancy and Alexander tomorrow. Little roller to short and collision. And of course the runner, Matt Noakes, is going to be called out, as is the batter. And it will become a double play to end the inning. Pretty obvious as Noakes runs right into the shortstop. He's out for interfering with the shortstop right there, and the hitter is out. And it is 9-4 Detroit. It is 9-4 Detroit, bottom of the fifth inning. Dwight Lowry is now at first base for Dave Bergman. And Ernie Witt, Jesse Barfield, and Willie Upshaw against Dan Petrie.
Here's the play. Trammell's going to come in on the ground ball, and Noakes, I don't know why he didn't see the shortstop there.
It's like running into a giant redwood and saying you didn't see it.
Man, it looked like he just didn't have any idea where he was.
Ernie Witt trying to lead the Blue Jays back. They have been out of it, and they keep trying to come back. They were down 3-0 in the first inning, came back to tie in the third inning. They were trailing 7-3. They scored once and left runners at first and third. And now they're down 9-4. Hit to the new first baseman, and Dwight Lowry feeding Dan Petrie coming up, and almost flipped it over his head.
And all the time in the world, the ball was hit very hard. Lowry just coming in. He was going to make sure and almost do it too high.
He's a Tar Heel, graduate of the University of North Carolina. He was the 11th selection in the June 1980 draft. Big guy, 6'3", 210. Dwight Lowry, 30 years old in October. Jesse Barfield has a double and a triple. The triple was the single played into a triple by Chet Lemon. So Jesse, who came into the game hitting over .420 against Tiger pitching, and he's given him a bad time again today. But it is 9-4 Detroit with 1 out in the fifth. The Blue Jays getting at least a man on base in every inning and leaving at least one. Ball 2. The Tigers, because of Noakes running into the shortstop, Manny Lee, they've only left one man on base. 2-1. The count to Barfield. Line drive, base hit down the left field line in the corner, and it's going to be yet another extra base hit. So Barfield with 2 doubles and a triple. 5 doubles for the Blue Jays today.
Get that ball inside, and he just turned on it, opened up, and he rips it. All these extra base hits.
5 doubles and a triple for the Blue Jays. You have 3 doubles and a couple of home runs for the Tigers, including a grand slam. So it's a wild ball game, and here's Willie Upshaw. Remember, we're only in the 5th inning. The home runs for Detroit, Noakes with a man aboard, Noakes with the bases loaded, and then Darrell Evans leading off the 5th with the bases empty. So 9-4 Detroit. Foul back.
Did you read the disclaimer yet?
No.
I mean, it's one of those games you better get it in early. Somebody may want to tape this one.
Yeah. 1 ball and 1 strike, the count. Well, it was 4-3 and 3-2. And today they kind of roll up their sleeves. Stieb, Cerruti, and Ward. And it's been Terrell and Petrie for Detroit. Ball 2. Tomorrow, Jim Clancy and Doyle Alexander in the final game of the 4-game series. Next weekend, the final 3 games of the year between these two in Detroit. 2-1. A 1 hopper hit to the right side to Whitaker, and taking third is Barfield. Remember now, the Blue Jays have left a man at third in each of the last 2 innings. So we'll see if they're going to do it 3 in a row. The point being that they are very much more in the ball game than the score would indicate. They've had people all over the place. They just haven't been able to come up with a key hit since the 1st inning. Rick Leach had a key at bat in the 3rd. 1st and 3rd and 1 out, and he struck out. In the 1st inning, 1st and 2nd, he hit back to the box. So he's had 4 runners on, and he's failed to advance any of them. That's a strike. And that's a tough burden for a fellow who's only in the game because of his bat. He's a designated hitter. Leach, out of the Detroit organization, finally came over to Toronto in 1984. Starting quarterback for Michigan for 3 years. Born in Ann Arbor, and dunks one into right field to give the boys from Michigan a bad time. So Leach finally delivers on his 3rd opportunity, scoring Barfield. That makes it 9-5, and it could be closer than that.
Leach struck out on a slow curveball, but he's looking for this one. He was waiting for it. Broke his bat, but he was waiting for it.
And the batter will be Manny Lee, flied to center and grounded out. 9-5 Detroit, 2 down in the 5th. Manny Lee certainly trying to fill a big pair of shoes. Tony Fernandez out for the rest of the year. Manny is an excellent defensive shortstop, and there are those who say with Fernandez playing on a sore knee, Manny actually might be covering more ground and be a little more of an asset defensively. But there is no way he could carry Fernandez's bat. Tony was hitting .322 and had 67 RBIs. Ground ball to the hole. Back to get it is Trammell. Quick way to Whitaker for the force on Leach, and the inning is over. 1 run, 2 hits, 1 left. And at the end of 5, Detroit 9, Toronto 5. 6 years ago today, Nolan Ryan pitching to Dusty Baker, who hit a ground ball to third. The throw to first in time, and Nolan Ryan turned in his 5th no-hitter in the great indoors of Houston. Now in the great outdoors of Toronto, Pat Sheridan fouls it off. 0-1. 9-5 Detroit. Top of the 6th. Tigers have had changes of their own when you look at this ball club late in September. And you realize that 3 of the fellas in the starting lineup opening day have been traded away. Orlando Mercado, Terry Harper, and Darrell Knowles. Darnell Coles. After a while, they all blend together.
That's
you know.
Right.
Darnell Coles. Darn it, Darnell. And there's ball 4 to Pat Sheridan. So Dwayne Ward, the 3rd Toronto pitcher, and the batter will be Tommy Brookins, who fouled out and struck out. He's 0 for 2. Nine to 5 Detroit.
There's Cito Gaston, who been talking about him, the hitting coach, and he's been with this ball club and these fellas a long time.
It's a great shot of him. His hat. Thank you very much, Clarence. Appreciate it. Appreciate that. Good. Brookins with a 5-game hitting streak. It's 9-5 Detroit. We're in the 6th inning. The Tigers have been retired in order twice, and Toronto has not been retired in order. The Tigers have left 1 man. The Tigers have seen Toronto leave 7. There goes the runner. The throw, not in time. Manny Lee can't believe it.
How do you like that call by Kaiser? Was that cool? Oh, he was cool with that one. It was a good throw by Ernie Witt. I hope that Kaiser's in the picture with his call, because it was really cool. He was in it. Now, what's his call? Oh, yeah. A walk in the park for the big guy. Oh, Ken.
What do you mean, big series?
Nothing bothers him.
So Sheridan gets a pretty good jump and steals. It's his 18th stolen base. And Tommy Brookins trying to nudge him around with the count 0-1. They pull up the corners a little bit, Upshaw and Mullenix, in the event of a bunt. And there it is. And the only play is for Upshaw to wait till he comes to him. So Tom Brookins sacrifices Sheridan to 3rd. And with 1 out, Lou Whitaker will be the batter. So a walk, a stolen base, and a sacrifice. Detroit trying to manufacture a run, leading by 4 as it is.
That tells you more about the Detroit bullpen than anything else, because Sparky's trying to pick up those runs. He played hit and run with Brookins and with Sheridan, and then he sacrificed, and he's got into 3rd, got to move the infield in, and he wants to pick up as many as he can.
Now here's Whitaker, grounded out, singled and fouled out, 1 for 3. The infield is up. And he promptly goes the other way. A little flare foul down the left field line, and the count 0-1. Mentioned before that Whitaker is having more problems this year making contact than any year in his career. Whitaker averages, maybe 70 strikeouts a year, and he's over 100 this year, 106, which is not like him.
They've been pitching him away. They're going to try to make him hit that way. Now, they may move him back this time, but so far, every pitch has been away.
He has 16 home runs, 59 runs batted in, and Dwayne Ward trying to shut him down here with a runner at 3rd. A 1-hopper. Oh, Manny Lee. Oh, yeah. Does he have the good snippers? Whew.
Barely got that glove on, and he short hopped that ball like it was just like picking cherries. Ball is well hit. Comes off that artificial surface, and he's got the short hop, and he made it look easy.
And as soon as he gloved the ball, You would think he'd just be happy to have the ball, but immediately looked over at third. He is a dazzling defensive player.
Put him on. Look at this.
Yeah, they're going to walk Darrell Evans and take their chances against Kirk Gibson. So Evans gets his second walk. Remember, he homered last time up in the 5th inning.
Now, we talk about sitting on pitches. You remember when Gibson looked real bad, it was the slow curveball. Remember, he was way out in front. Now, just to illustrate, we're talking about Gaston all day. It would be the kind of thing where he'd say, now pick a pitch that you think he's going to throw you and then be ready for it. I would think if I were Gibson, I would look for something slow. We'll see.
Yeah, and how? At first and third, 2 down. Gibson doubled the left, hit a ball out in front of the plate and was tagged out, and walked, scored a run in the 5th inning. So the big guy's been on base twice and scored twice. 9-5 Detroit, top of the 6th inning. When the Blue Jays come up in the bottom half, they'll have Liriano, Mosby, and Mullenix, and if anybody gets on, Bell. Sheridan at third, Evans at first. Turned him around, ball 1. Dwayne Ward out of the Atlanta Brave organization, along with Craig McMurtry and Joe Johnson. On the corner.
Curveball. There it was.
Terry Pendleton hit a home run to go along with a 2-run blast from Dan Dreesen earlier, and the Cardinals and John Tudor leading the Cubs and Rick Sutcliffe 3-0 in the 6th. Meanwhile, the Mets are losing in the 9th inning. It was 8-2 last we heard. So the Mets could be 3.5 games back as the sun dips in New York. Another afternoon failure for Dwight Gooden. That's quite a pattern now for one of the big stars in the league. Can't win in the daytime. 2-2 to Gibson.
Boy, that'll start to play games with your mind.
Oh. I'll tell you who was like that a few years ago when he was pitching very well. Bert Hooton with the Dodgers. They used to call him an owl because he always did so well at night. Didn't do well in the daytime. Well, the strategy paid off. They walk Darrell Evans and strike out Gibson. 2 left, and the crowd gets on Gibson, who is very angry. And at the end of 5.5 innings, 9-5 Detroit. Tomorrow, right here on NBC, the NFL Live, followed by baseball. That's right. The Detroit Tigers right here at Exhibition Stadium in Toronto. Others will see the Cardinals and the Cubs. All starts at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. In the bottom of the 6th inning, Nelson Liriano, Lloyd Mosby, and Rance Mullenix, with Detroit leading Toronto 9-5. Dan Petrie, pitching for Detroit, has been in there since the 3rd inning. Right. Petrie 9-6. Big overhand breaking ball dropped in nicely. 0-2 the count to Liriano. Toronto with the best record in baseball. They've won 95 games, lost 59. They've won 6 straight. So it's a good ball club playing very well. Well, the Tigers trying to turn it around. Tomorrow, Doyle Alexander. And it's interesting, you look at Dwayne Ward, the 3rd pitcher for Toronto today. Ward was acquired from the Braves in exchange for Doyle Alexander. July 5 last year. So we'll see Doyle tomorrow in a very big game.
Kind of interested to see what kind of a reaction he gets. Especially talking about it on the pregame show. He said, well, they just didn't take care of me.
He was unhappy not only with the people of Toronto, but with Canada in general, with tax laws, etc. And he was rather outspoken about it. I think he wrote a letter.
Left a laundry list with him, yeah.
Of all the things that he felt were wrong. However, I will say this is a very large crowd today, and so far a very polite crowd. outside of a few cheers, haven't heard any boos at all directed at anybody. And it's a full house. A drive hit down the right field line, hooking foul in the seats. Sellout today, sellout tomorrow. They had over 46,000 here, yet they talk about the seating capacity is around 43 or 44. And as we mentioned earlier, when you sit in right center field, you're not in right center field. When you sit in right center field, you're in the suburbs.
You're in Edmonton.
I mean, look where y'all can't get over that. And down goes Liriano. There, that's the farthest seat in baseball. On a clear day, you can see Montreal. Pittsburgh defeated the Mets 8-2. And the Cardinals are winning. So this is the way it figures to be. If the Cardinals finish, you would add a half a game. In other words, that's it right to the moment. Make it 3.5 if the Cardinals win. Fouled away out of play off Mosby's bat. 0-1.
And when you look at the standings, the big thing, that loss column, 63 for the Cardinals, 67 for the Mets.
Yep, that's money spent. Can't get those back. 8 games left. And to be trailing by 3.5 with 8 left, you're really hurting.
4 on the loss side.
Of course, the race that they always bring up right now is 1964, when the Phillies were 6.5 in front with 12 to go. Chico Ruiz stole home for the Cincinnati Reds, and the Phillies lost 10 straight. 2-1 the count to Lloyd Mosby with Rance Mullenix on deck.
Chico Ruiz, there's a blast from the past.
Wasn't he something?
What a delightful guy to be around.
Yeah.
Remember doing his show, the right way to sit on the bench.
He had his own pillow?
Yeah.
A silk pillow that he sat on in the dugout.
He had a special one for right-hand pitching, special for left-hand pitching. He was great.
He also, God rest his soul, he used to take the silver paper from chewing gum wrappers and make stars, and for every game he sat out, he would put a star up on the dugout wall.
Oh, he was great.
He used to say, what do they think I am, a machine? If they play me, they should trade me. So he would sit on his silver pillow and watch. 2-2. Foul ball.
They don't come around like that anymore.
No. Lloyd Mosby walked and scored in the first inning, popped out in the second, singled, stole third, and then stole second, and got to third, and was stranded there. 9-5 Detroit, but it is a somewhat shaky 4-run lead. Fouled away, right into the Tiger dugout. 2-2. Up until earlier this week, the Tiger bullpen was averaging about 3 runners per inning. Yeah, 3 runners per inning. And that's why Sparky has to try and get as many runs as he can get his hands on. Check swing. Is it going to be a swing? No, because Noakes was all set to make a play. But Jim McKeon said a check swing. 3-2 the count. Folks here trying to shake up a couple of runs with a wave. Large crowd on a magnificent day in a beautiful city. What a combination here in Toronto. 3-2. And there's ball 4. So Mosby is aboard. Mullenix coming up, and Bell on deck. Sparky has had his bullpen working almost constantly. Mark Thurmond is up again in the Tiger pen.
I have to make sure what Sparky's doing. I'll ask him tomorrow, but before the game, he's talking about Terrell. He was saying, well, when I chart him, I know he's throwing fastballs, so he might be charting pitches, which would be a bit rare. It's usually the next day's starter who charts pitches.
So Mullenix with the runner going. The pitch is high. The throw is in the dirt. So Mosby steals second for the second time today.
Noakes really did wind up on that one. Usually when you throw, you go right from your glove straight to your ear, that bow and arrow effect. But watch him kind of drop his arm while you're watching Mosby. Gets a pretty good jump, and it's not even close.
So Mosby, with 2 stolen bases, has 33. Of course, that takes away the double play. The right side of the infield now extremely deep. Lowry and Whitaker. With Mosby at second, Mullenix the batter, and Bell waiting his turn. 9-5 Detroit, 6th inning. If you're a left-hand hitter, you've been conscious that the wind is blowing out to right from the moment you came to the ballpark. Oh, you see that? Oh, hello.
They knew that, I'll tell you.
It's blowing out.
Right-hand hitters during batting practice were trying to hit it over that fence, and it is blowing us. It's a stiff wind blowing out there.
No accident that we've had 3 home runs, 2 by Matt Noakes, 1 by Darrell Evans, all left-hand batters. And remember, Toronto was a ball club that came into this game with 209 home runs. Well, they can hurt you. Mullenix has 10. 2-1 Durant. On the corner.
Oh, that was a tough pitch. Right on that outside corner.
So Dan Petrie, with Mark Thurman throwing back of him in the Tiger bullpen. He's the pitcher of record, picking up for Walt Terrell. 2-2 to Mullenix. Ball 3. Rance is a very tough hitter. His full name is Stephen Rance Mullenix, but you never hear the Stephen. And for 7 years, he has always hit higher with men on base. A 300 hitter trying to hurt Detroit right now. He has a double and 2 ground balls. And there's ball 4, and here comes George. And Sparky, another George, knows that with one swing, Bell can get Toronto back in the game.
Sparky, who will not step on the foul line, if he goes out to take that pitcher, will simply say, "Put the ball in my hand gently like an egg and remove yourself." That's what he tells him before, but he doesn't have the hand extended yet.
And I'll say one thing, Sparky has not been very confident with Mark Thurman, and it didn't figure that Thurman would be coming in to pitch to Bell, and Thurman might have some company down there in the pen. Mark is throwing, and he's going to be joined by Mike Henneman. So George Bell will go up against Dan Petrie. Bell has singled and doubled and flied to center, and look at that. So the right man in the right spot as far as Toronto is concerned, and it has really brought this crowd alive. Look at it. It looks like a snowstorm in the stands as they wave handkerchiefs, particularly in left field. Left field is where it's a blizzard. Ball 1. One good thing, straightaway center field, the seats are not only empty, but they are blacked out. Though it furnishes a good background, you can see. But boy, it looked like it was snowing out there in left field. And that's hit into left field. It's going to fall for a base hit. Mosby will score. Mullenix to third. 9-6 Detroit. That will be all for Dan Petrie. as Sparky's going back to the mound. George Bell with 2 singles and a double, forcing Anderson's hand now. And with Ernie Witt coming up, the left-handed Mark Thurmond will be coming in. And the Toronto Blue Jays trail by 3, and Ernie Witt represents the tying run at the plate.
And the base on balls. There's no defense against the base on balls. Petrie did a good job when he came on up until this inning. When you walk Mosby and Mullenix and you get Bell up there, chances are you're going to give up some runs.
So we told you when it was 9-5 that it was a very shaky lead, and that Toronto could indeed have been a lot closer. They left a couple of men at third. They left 7 men in the first 5 innings. And Toronto now, with 1 out in the 6th, 1 run over. They have runners at first and third. And Ernie Witt and Jesse Barfield back-to-back. Thurmond pitching to Witt, and then it might be that they will go back to the bullpen for Henneman to pitch to Barfield.
Tell you, Sparky told you something when he put the hit and run play on, and then Bunnan tried to pick up that run.
Also, you look back at the 6th inning after the sacrifice, and remember that fine play that Manny Lee made on Lou Whitaker.
That's right. And how about that running play of Noakes? That's going to figure into this, where it ended up a double play.
Noakes crashing into Manny Lee in the 5th inning on a ground ball hit by Lemon that should have been an out, but should have scored an additional run. So the Tigers frustrating themselves somewhat with questionable plays, not to mention what they're doing to their manager. And Toronto just doggedly hanging on their heels and trying to come right back. And they have another good look at the game right now. For Ernie Witt, a power hitter, but he doesn't have very many at-bats, only 61 at-bats the entire year against left-hand pitchers. All of his 19 home runs are against right-handers.
Of course, Thurmond will be looking for that ground ball to get that double play and get it over with, but we got a battle right here.
All right, here comes Ernie Witt, first and third in the 6th. Exhibition Stadium, a madhouse now, as Toronto down 3-0 came back. Down 9-5, trying to come back. Down 7-3. Witt with 19 RBIs in the month of September is 0 for 3 today. Grounded into a double play, grounded to second, grounded to first. So the Tigers are looking for another ground ball from the catcher. Toronto looking for at least a fly ball. 1 ball and no strikes. Mark Thurmond 0-1 in his 46th relief assignment. 5 saves. And he's low. Ball 2. Jesse Barfield waiting on deck. Mike Henneman, the right-hander, throwing in the Detroit bullpen. And David Wells, a left-hander, throwing in the Toronto bullpen. Boy, is this a scramble. Mullenix at third, Bell at first. 1 out. 2 balls, no strikes. Hit foul down the right field line, out of play.
I tell you, the only thing missing here is that keg of beer at second base.
Fat man's picnic. And the crowd having a ball. Big crowd last night, over 46,000, and the night before. Sell out today, sell out tomorrow. And the chant, Ernie, Ernie. Two and two. Thursday night, the Blue Jays down 2-0, came back to win 4-3. Last night, the Blue Jays down 2-0, came back to win 3-2. And they're trying to come back yet again. 9-6 Detroit, 1 out in the 6th inning. Line drive, foul. into the crowd alongside the Tiger bullpen.
He threw a curveball for a second strike that was a beauty. That one hung inside, and Witt really turned on it just a bit too soon, but he hit it hard.
So Ernie Witt and Mark Thurman, with Mullenix down the line from third, George Bell standing at first. Tigers leading 9-6, one away, and Barfield on deck. Foul tipped and held, and so Ernie Witt strikes out. Mark Thurman takes care of him, but now let's see. Here comes Sparky, and we'll see Mike Henneman. So Thurman got the man he had to get, the left-hander Witt. And it figures that Sparky will now go to the percentages and bring in the right-hander.
Good pitch by Thurman. I always get a big kick out of Sparky walking out as Thurman walks out, because Sparky's superstition will not step on the line.
9-6 Tigers, 2 out in the 6th. We'll be right back. Friends, this telecast presented by authority of Major League Baseball may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Mike Henneman off the campus of Oklahoma State. And the young right-hander, 25 years old, he'll be 26 in December, will go head-to-head with Jesse Barfield. Barfield at the plate representing the tying run. Barfield today has a single, a double, a triple, in fact 2 doubles and a triple. The single was played into a triple by Chet Lemon. Bell at first, Mullenix at third, 2 out. The outs on strikeouts. Ball 1. Barfield, as we mentioned earlier, had a very poor July and an even poorer August, and he's been very hot in September. Toronto hoping that he will be particularly hot right now. Breaking ball for a strike. Henneman is 9-2, and he has a half a dozen saves. Henneman, who pitched in the College World Series back in 1983 and 84, on a hot spot here. Two and 1 the count. You have a left-hand hitter on deck, Willie Upshaw. Jesse Barfield, the tying run. It is 9-6 Detroit. We're only in the 6th inning. And now Henneman is in danger of loading him up.
3-1. You'd be surprised how tough a hitter you become when you get that count, 3 balls and 1 strike. Same 2 balls and no strikes, but 3-1, boy, that's when you can really sit on that cripple.
And there's no one throwing in the bullpen. It's up to Henneman. Barfield with 28 home runs. Jammed him, a little pop foul, and it will be Lowry. And what a pitch. 3-1 to jam him with a fastball. 1 run, 1 hit, 2 left. At the end of 6, 9-6 Detroit. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. It is still 9-6 Detroit at the end of 6 innings. The Cardinals leading the Cubs 3-1. Remember, the Mets lost, so that's a big one for the Cardinals to win. Big one here, Pittsburgh defeating the Mets 8-2. Frustrating thing for Toronto, they have left at least 1 man on in every inning. They've left 9 men. They've left 3 runners at third, and they are 2 for 8 with men on third. The brand new daddy, Alan Trammell, who has 2 doubles and an intentional walk, starting it off. 0-1. 1 ball, 1 strike. Trammell followed by Noakes, and then Lowry. And Allen drives it foul down the left field line, out of play. 27 home runs, 101 runs batted in, and he's hit in 15 straight. Trammell hitting .343. Mark Eichhorn begins to throw in the Toronto bullpen. 2-2. Bouncer up the middle. So Trammell bidding for a perfect day. He has 2 doubles and a single plus a walk. And that brings up Matt Noakes talking about a perfect day.
Was Ward breaking with his follow-through, breaking towards first base. He made a grab, but he had no chance.
Matt Noakes hit a 2-run home run in the first inning. He hit a grand slam home run against John Cerruti in the third. Last time up, they walked him intentionally, but then he made a base running mistake when he crashed into Manny Lee. That deprived Detroit of an additional run. Ball 1.
I bet they experiment with him this coming spring.
Another position?
Yep.
Yeah, could be. Hitting .295. In there. 1-1. The Tigers had 3 in the first. Toronto came back with 3. Noakes hit his grand slam in the third. Toronto came back with 1. Detroit got 2 in the fifth, and Toronto got a run in the fifth, a run in the sixth. So it's 9-6 Detroit. We're in the top of the 7th. Stieb, Cerruti, and Ward for Toronto. Terrell, Petrie, Thurmond, and Henneman for Detroit. There goes the runner, foul back. So Sparky puts a play on. Trammell going, and Noakes fouled it off. The Cardinals increasing their lead. Ozzie Smith doubled in a run. So St. Louis 4, Cubs 1 in the 7th. John Tudor pitching a big game for the Cardinals. The Mets have already lost.
Well, it was a good story in Sports Illustrated on Ozzie Smith. I really enjoyed reading that. He is a wizard.
1-2 to Matt Noakes. Hit it inside out, foul into the crowd along the left field foul line. 1-2 to Matt. Six RBIs today. That's a high for him. He's from San Diego. Came up in the San Francisco Giant organization. And hammers it to center and deep. Mosby, however, in the shade. Hauls it in. And Trammell back to first. So Noakes a hard out as he lines out to center, and that will bring up Dwight Lowry. Duck in a couple of scores. Kansas City defeated Minnesota 7-4, so the Twins' number remains at 3. However, Kansas City down by 5, running out of time. Cleveland leading California 10-8 in the 8th inning. Houston, Cincinnati, that was a wild game. Houston leading 5-3. We'll tell you why it's wild. We don't want to get in the way of the play. Strike 1. Dave Parker was ejected from that game. He charged the mound after Danny Darwin had brushed him back. Then Reds pitcher Ron Robinson was ejected for throwing at Darwin. And for good measure, Pete Rose was also ejected. And that goes for Shotzi the dog, too.
Whoop.
Yeah, a little look-see on that one, but no play. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Witt doesn't like pitch outs. He thinks it breaks up the whole rhythm of the pitcher and catcher relationship. He doesn't like it, so obviously he got a call from the bench to put a play on.
We'll have to have Ernie meet Roger Craig.
Oh, I tell you, we were talking about that before the game. He said, I just don't like it. I got enough confidence in myself. They give me a chance, I'll get them. He said, because I'll set up, and I know the ball will be in that area, but with the pitch out, you just don't know.
Lowry's only had 24 at-bats. There goes Noakes, and Witt can't handle a pitch. That's embarrassing.
That is.
We were just talking about.
Just talking about it. And Sparky, as soon as the pitch out was put on and nothing happened, he puts the play on. And you can't trust anybody, because Sparky said before the game, when I checked, he said Trammell's got a bad leg, Gibson's got a bad leg. I can't run on anybody. Gibson stretches a single into a double. Trammell steals second. Who are you going to believe?
So Trammell at second base, 1 out in the 7th. Sparky trying to get more, and Jimmy Williams is going to come out to the mound, and let's see. Mark Eichhorn has been throwing in the pen. Well, that is a business-like walk to the mound, isn't it?
I like the way he walks out there. He doesn't stroll. He's got that left hand in his pants there, and when he comes walking out, he comes walking out.
He looks like he's going to draw on you. That's what
right.
scares me. With that left hand, I think, uh-oh, I'm gone.
He's a no-nonsense guy, Jimmy Williams.
So Dwayne Ward will come out in favor of Mike Archon. Mark Eichhorn, with his record, 10-6, 4 saves.
Say, this has been a great day for fan camera day. We could have taken the whole squad.
So Mark Eichhorn will become the 4th Toronto pitcher. Tomorrow on NFL Live, scheduled to appear, we understand, further discussions about the strike. Jim Kelly, Dan Fouts, Don Shula, Bob Trumpy versus Jimmy Cefalo tomorrow at 12:30. Followed by baseball, the Detroit Tigers and the Toronto Blue Jays. Others will see the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs. And in that game here tomorrow, Jim Clancy and Doyle Alexander. So Eichhorn will come in to inherit the count with Lowry, with a runner at second base and 1 out.
He had an arm injury in 1983, Eichhorn did, and looked like it was all over for him, but Toronto, the ball club, the organization, they agreed to stand by him while he learned his submarine delivery. And 84 wasn't exactly that good at Syracuse. He had a good year in 85 and 2 good years with the Blue Jays, and he comes submarine, and he throws that slow curveball from there. So not necessarily so that he just throws that sinker, which is a natural sinker if you submarine it, because he'll change speeds, and he will change speeds on his curveball.
Earlier this year, as Kirk Gibson gets in, Dwight Lowry, excuse me. Earlier this year, they were laying off that. Back to fight that, and earned run average a little more than 3. He's done well. So Lowry with the count of 2-1. And that's hit off the end of the stick, up the middle, behind the bag at second to flag it is Liriano, but no play. So you have runners at first and third with 1 out. So Dwight Lowry hit it right off the end of the bat. Sounded like he hit it with the morning paper.
Wet one.
And Chet Lemon coming up. Lemon with a 7-game hitting streak, and he's 0 for 3. And we'll have a runner at first base. Let's see if that's Jim Whalewander or not.
I think it is, man.
Yep, that's who it is. So Whalewander running for Lowry.
He's going to have to lose some weight, Whalewander, or shorten his name, because he goes from armpit to armpit.
Like Tracewski, the coach. Same thing.
You lose that W.
So Whalewander at first. Trammell at third. Lemon 0 for 3 at the plate, and it is 9-6 Detroit in the 7th inning. Thinking squeeze?
Brother, you talk about a surprise play right there.
1 ball and no strikes to Chet Lemon. Lemon, in case you wondered, does not have a sacrifice, so he's not exactly the man you would expect to come up and squeeze with. But with Sparky and a shaky bullpen and still a long way to go, he'll try anything to get more runs. One ball and no strikes. First and third, 1 out in the 7th, 9-6 Detroit. Tomorrow, Jim Clancy and Doyle Alexander. And there goes the runner. And on a fake bunt by Lemon, it's a strike, and Witt can't afford to go down to second with a throw. So Will Wander steals second. And with runners at second and third, Toronto forfeiting the opportunity for the double play now.
Now they got to pull their infield in.
3 stolen bases. So Sparky has the Tigers on the prowl here. With the infield up, Lemon trying to pick somebody up. Daddy long-legged shadows in front and behind home plate. You know it must be tough playing left field and looking into this crowd. There really isn't anything to break the crowd behind home plate and first base. Must be hard getting a jump on a fly ball, especially with the sun splashing right in there. 2-2. The Cardinals now leading 5-1 over Chicago in the 7th. The Mets have already lost. And Houston finished off Cincinnati 5-3. 2-2 to Lemon. Boy, you talk about a roundhouse. He was going to throw it around him, and he hit him to load the bases.
Lemon didn't move. You could see it. He just, when he knew that ball was a big curveball and it wasn't going to hit him in a spot that was really going to hurt, why not take the base?
So Pat Sheridan coming up in a minute.
He just turns on it now. That's a good picture. Look at here. Perfect spot to get hit.
So Lemon at first, Will Wander at second, Trammell at third, 1 out in the 7th. Pat Sheridan the hitter, 9-6 Detroit. 4-1. The ace of the Toronto staff with 34 saves is Tom Henke. You wouldn't know Henke is the ace, however, if you looked at his record. He's 0-6. And now Ernie Witt going out to talk to Mark Eichhorn. In the inning, Trammell singled. After Noakes flied out, Trammell stole second. With a 2-1 count, they brought in Eichhorn to pitch to Lowry, who cued one off the end of the bat for an infield single. Will Wander ran for him and stole second. Lemon hit by the pitch. So the Tigers trying to get a big inning going here. Ground ball to the right side. That's Liriano to Lee. Back to first. Double play. No runs, 2 hits, and 2 left. And Toronto is still in the game. Here's another edition of Baseball Remembered. Well, professional football has its labor troubles. We'll find out more about that tomorrow indeed. Meanwhile, Detroit is winning 9-6, and yet uneasy lies the crown.
Oh, you talk about labor troubles. Sparky is having them because he got the bases loaded in a double play. You can just know that a hockey game is going on in his stomach.
Well, we'll see what happens now. This one's a long way from being over. 9-6 Detroit. Let's take a look at the bottom of the 7th. Darrell Evans, who was the designated hitter, now takes over at first base. So he had Bergman, Lowry, and now Evans. Willie Upshaw, Rick Leach, and Manny Lee in the bottom of the seventh. 9-6 Detroit. So the Tigers can kick themselves for letting a big inning get away, and now we'll see if Toronto can come roaring back. Willie Upshaw walked, singled, and grounded out. He's 1 for 2. His single was a squibber up along the line at third, way back in the third inning. Dan Petrie was the pitcher. Fly ball into center field. Going back on it was Lemon. Now into the sunshine. 1 down.
Say, there's no way you're going to hit one over Lemon's head unless it's out of the ballpark.
And he went back, which of course an outfielder's instinctive reaction no matter how deep he is.
Outfielders don't like to have that ball hit over their head.
I've always heard it say it's very difficult to convert an outfielder into an infielder because instinctively he goes back, just as an infielder has trouble playing the outfield because he instinctively comes in. Habit, tough to break. Rick Leach. He's had a tough day, although he did have a base hit and a run batted in the 5th inning. With first and second in the 1st inning, he hit back to the box. First and third in the 3rd inning, he struck out. A drive into right, and the wind's going to take it, and she's gone. Like a hard pitch to pull. It seemed to drift away from Leach, and yet he was strong enough to go out and get it and hit it out at right center. That's only his 3rd home run of the year. So again, Toronto back in the game. It's Detroit 9, Toronto 7. Any minute, I expect Sparky to take that board and scale it like a frisbee in the dugout. I don't know how much longer he can hold on to it. Here's Manny Lee. That board.
He's holding on to it pretty tightly. When you can go out and get that pitch like Leach did, it can't be too much on it.
That's his first home run since the 21st of July against Minnesota. And Manny Lee with a strike called, 1-2. 9-7 Detroit. Detroit led 3-0, 7-3, 9-5. Manny Lee, who can certainly play short, but he's going to be a tough hitter to replace Tony Fernandez. And with 2 out, Nelson Liriano coming up against Mike Henneman.
That curveball just dropped right on down, and Lee is out on strikes.
Nelson Liriano singled and scored in the 1st inning, doubled, lined out to right, and struck out. 2 for 4. Ball 1. Of course, any lineup that has some of the names that Toronto has, you're never really ever out of a game.
Seems like whenever they walk in the batter's box, they're tying run in scoring position.
Little foul off third, out of play, and the count 1-1.
The wind blowing out, especially the left-hand batters.
In the lineup, you have Liriano, Mosby, Mullenix, Witt, Upshaw, and Leach, all left-handed. Liriano and Lee switch hitters.
The bell doesn't make any difference.
No, not at all.
What part?
2 balls and 1 strike. We had to figure it was going to be a wild day when they each scored 3 times in the 1st inning. That sinker that Henneman throws is a fork ball. That's fouled away, and he's got a pretty good one. David Wells, the left-hander, throwing in the Toronto bullpen. There's David. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Nelson Liriano. A roller up along first. Fair ball. Evans to the bag. And that's the inning. 1 run. 1 hit. The home run by Leach. And at the end of 7, 9-7 Detroit. We gave you the final. Houston had defeated Cincinnati 5-3 earlier today. So suddenly the Giants' magic number is 2. Any combination of Giant victories and/or Cincinnati defeats, and the Giants would clinch the division. Well, the Giants are in Atlanta. Mike Lacoste is due to go against David Palmer tonight. And if San Francisco can win, that clinches a tie. And, of course, tomorrow is a memorable day in Atlanta. That's when Phil Niekro will go to the mound and say goodbye to his active days, maybe, as a pitcher for the Atlanta Braves.
You say maybe.
Listen, he said goodbye more times than in Grand Opera. I'm not kidding. It's not in writing. He'll pitch, and who knows? They say that Phil will pitch on Sunday, and then he will have an indeterminate job in the office. We'll see. I mean, just imagine he goes out there and pitches a gem on Sunday. Now what do you do? They've retired his uniform. They've erected a statue. There's not much else left.
No, you're right.
Yeah. David Wells comes out of the Toronto bullpen, the 5th pitcher. Toronto hoping it all's wells, ends wells, or something. Ball 1. Tom Brookins, followed by Lou Whitaker, and then Darrell Evans. We're in the 8th inning, 9-7 in favor of Detroit. High foul, and the wind will blow that way back into the crowd. David Wells, as you can see, 4-3. I do not believe he's eligible for postseason play, but he has done a fine job whenever they've needed him. Two and one. And another foul, out of play. Wells has been a tremendous contributor to Toronto's success. In fact, in the last 7 times he has gone out, he has 3 wins and a save. His earned run average is a little more than half a run over that stretch. And that's how he's been doing it. But down goes Brookins. So Tom Brookins, hitting 9th, goes 0 for 3, striking out twice. And Lou Whitaker coming up. Sparky has a 2-run lead, but boy, he is not secure at all. Pretty good reason why. Bottom of the 8th, he would be insecure for 3 reasons: Mosby, Mullenix, and Bell. Whitaker is 1 for 4. Lost by Manny Lee. So David Wells, after striking out Brookins, struggling with Whitaker, and Darrell Evans waiting his turn. And he walks him on 4. Detroit not only with 3 home runs, 3 doubles, they've also now received 7 walks. 2 each from Stieb, Cerruti, and Ward, and now this one from Wells. Darrell Evans has walked twice, once intentionally. He has a home run. Strike. No balls, 1 strike. Fisted back a third, down the line, foul. Mullenix couldn't get it. Oh, and 2, the count to Terrell Evans. We're in the top of the 8th inning. 5 pitchers used by Toronto, 4 by Detroit. All kinds of extra base hits, including a grand slam. It's been a busy day. 0-2. Popped in the air, foul. Mullenix coming over. The wind might keep that ball in play. No, it's back in 2 rows. But Mullenix was hoping it might bring it back to him. It's a point to remember that Terrell Evans started the day as the designated hitter and is finishing up the game at first base. Therefore, in Bergman's spot, the number 6 spot, that's where Henneman is. So the pitcher hits 6th. Whitaker has stolen 13 bases. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count to Terrell Evans.
Boy, right field will be a little tough. There's just a flock of birds landing out there, and I'm telling you, a ball hit out there, Barfield's going to see all kinds of activity. Look at there.
It's become foul ground. Is that what you're saying? Well, 1-2. Fouled away. Isn't this where Winfield got in trouble?
Yeah. But you can see why. I mean, there they go, taking off. Somebody, must be 20 of them. How are you supposed to catch a ball in the middle of all that?
That's a new one. What happened to you? I lost it in the birds. When they're flying over you, I hope that's the worst thing that happens.
Yes.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Whoa, close. 2-2. Tough pitch to take, but Evans has been around long enough to have seen them all. Three and 2.
Now what do you do? Do you run Whitaker?
Sure.
Strikeout man, but it's the ground ball. You got a double play. Just check with Trzaskowski. I would think he'd be going.
I would. He walks more than he strikes out. So he's got a pretty good eye of the strike zone. One out. 8th inning, 9-7 Detroit. 3rd game of the 4-game series. Game 3 of the magnificent 7. Tomorrow here, 3 in Detroit next weekend. Whitaker goes, and the pitch is pop foul behind the plate and out of play. Now there's a dandy. The Angels in Cleveland. 10-10 in the 10th. Wonder what the overs and unders were in that game. 3-2 to Terrell Evans. Whitaker doesn't go, and a chopper to first. Low throw to Lee, but they get him a high throw, so they don't get Evans.
That's a tough play at second base because Upshaw sidearmed that ball. Kind of was a little bit of a sinker, and Whitaker was not breaking, kind of a late start. Lee was right there. Good play.
I don't know whether Whitaker was intimidated by David Wells because he was going on the first 3-2 pitch that was fouled off. Not that time. And he was just able to tie up Manny Lee.
You know, it's interesting with that shot. It was a great shot because Lee couldn't get anything on his throw. He really threw it just with his arm and flipped it, and he made a fairly close play out of it.
Here's Kirk Gibson. Doubled, grounded out, walked, struck out. He has scored twice. Ball 1. Gibson, 22 home runs, 74 runs batted in. Hitting .281. Strike. 1-1. To repeat, when Toronto comes up in the bottom of the 8th, Lloyd Mosby, Rance Mulliniks, and George Bell. There goes Evans. Breaking ball outside, and the throw got him. And how about that call?
I love that call.
I think Darrell is saying he never tagged me. But Ken Kaiser said he did. And it's 9-7 to
Dream it. You can do it. Today, the Prudential can show you a new world of financial opportunities. Look to the Rock. For mutual funds, stocks and bonds. Feel its strength in CDs, insurance and mortgages. With the right choices, the right guidance, the sky's the limit. The Prudential. Your rock in financial services.
An American tradition continues. On October 3rd, 1951, Bobby Thompson hit the shot heard round the world and brought a pennant to the Polo Grounds. This October 3rd, baseball's race for the pennant winds down as the Mets face the Cardinals or the Tigers host the Blue Jays. The tradition is here. The memories are waiting.
I think you're right, man.
Let's take a look at that controversial play. Just keep your eye on Manny Lee's glove. Don't look at anything else. Now watch the glove. Watch the ground. What did he tag? Did he get that?
I don't think he ever touched him. I really don't think he ever touched him.
If he does, he gets the leg that's folded underneath the sliding Evans. What? The second leg, maybe.
He doesn't touch him.
Yeah.
He put the glove down. It was an automatic out. He never did touch him. And Sparky still out there arguing with him.
In trying to read Darrell Evans' lips before he turned and walked away, he just said to Sparky, he didn't touch me.
The ball was there ahead of him, so it was automatic.
So Evans, who has a couple of stolen bases, a half a dozen this year, is thrown out to end the 8th. And now the bottom of the 8th inning. And Mike Henneman getting ready to pitch to Lloyd Mosby, Rance Mulliniks, and George Bell. Detroit 9, Toronto 7. In the bottom of the 8th inning. Look at it again.
There it goes. Now watch it. Let's see. Now he touches the dirt. I don't know where he tagged him.
Yeah, the only thing he might have tagged is as Evans was sliding, one leg was fully extended. He didn't go near that leg. The leg that was bent, there was a lot of dirt there, but it sure looked like he just hit the ground, not that leg.
Nah, from that shot, I'd have to say he touched the dirt. The ball was there ahead of him plenty of time.
Yep. Now let's see how important that is. We go to the bottom of the 8th inning. And this big crowd coming alive again. Toronto has shown no signs of going to sleep. Mosby has walked twice, single, popped up, stolen 2 bases, and scored twice. Little fly ball off third, down the line, and out of play.
This whole game has been one where a guy gets on. Well, what's the difference if he's on? Let him steal. I mean, everybody.
Toronto has left 9 men on in the first 6 innings. They got a home run from Rick Leach in the 7th, and that was the only inning where they failed to leave a man. Tigers have left a half a dozen. And we're in the 8th. Ground foul. Tigers led briefly 3-0, 7-3, 9-5, and now it's 9-7. Henneman came into the game to get Jesse Barfield, and he made $1 million pitch. Remember, the count was 3-1 with runners at first and third and 2 out, and he jammed Barfield, who hit a little foul ball to first base. That's been the biggest pitch of the day, I guess. Squirted down to shortstop. Trammell to Evans. So Mosby grounding to short, 1 down, and Rance Mulliniks the batter. And of course, for Mulliniks, it's very important to get aboard so that George Bell can have a shot at tying it up. Mulliniks has doubled and walked, grounded out twice. Bell waiting his turn on deck. Mullenix doubled and scored 2 in the first inning. Liriano and Mosby scoring on it. And he goes the other way, and George Bell will be the tying run at the plate. Figured, didn't it?
Just great hitting by Mullenix. He wasn't about to try to pull that ball. Look at his crowd react and listen to it.
What's the old battle cry? Let George do it. Well, that's what they're doing in Toronto. They're going to try and let him do it now. Bell today has 2 singles and a double. They got him once on a fly ball to center field. Mullenix at first, 1 out. In there, 0-1. Dickie Knowles down in the bullpen. Recently acquired by Detroit. 0-1 as the wind swirls here at Exhibition Stadium. Breaking ball, and the count 0-2. In the battle for the MVP today, Bell is 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Trammell is 3 for 3 with 1 RBI. Kelly Gruber off the bag at first for Rance Mullenix. Chased a bad ball. There's a classic case of a guy trying to do it all by himself. The crowd wanted it. He wanted to oblige, and he just chased it. Smart pitching by Henneman, too.
He just would not give him a ball to hit, and George just trying to fight it off. Great piece of pitching by Henneman.
That brings up Ernie Witt. Hit into a double play, grounded out twice, and struck out. So he's had a very long day. He is the only man, along with Manny Lee, to have failed to come up with a hit. There goes the runner. The pitch is inside. The throw is late.
Now, on that one, he had no chance. He had no chance to throw him out. Henneman didn't even give him a look at first base, and Mullenix said, well, if you want to give me second base, I'm going to take it. I mean, there are no plays on. I mean, situations dictating it. They're just, they give him the base, and they're taking it.
Well, they've each stolen 3 bases. And Noakes on his knee coming up quickly trying to make the throw.
Well, he did everything bad that time. He danced about 3 steps and dropped his arm and everything else, but he had no chance. I'm sure he was surprised to see him go, but you got to make that pitcher give him a look at least.
Foul back out of play.
Usually you're in the crouch and you come out throwing, as we look at Sparky Anderson, but he was down low, caught the ball, took 2 steps, dropped his arm, threw it, but by that time, Mullenix is way down there. Gruber, I mean, I keep saying Mullenix.
0-2 the count to Ernie Witt. Ground ball to the right side, handled there by Whitaker, and that takes care of Ernie Witt. Long day for Ernie. So they leave Gruber running for Mullenix, and at the end of 8, Detroit 9, Toronto 7.
Fans, please.
Mr. Garfield, welcome to Embassy Suites Hotel.
My room.
Oh, all our rooms are really 2-room suites for the price of a single room.
Beautiful. Don't change a thing.
The living room, sir.
Love what you've done with this room.
The bedroom.
This is great. I need my space.
And of course, you'll want to take advantage of Embassy Suites free breakfast.
Food.
Served every morning.
At Embassy Suites, you don't have to be a fat cat to enjoy the sweet life.
I resemble that remark.
just like a breath of fresh air early in the morning.
There's something about the taste of Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
I mean, usually I start sneaking some out of the box before I even get it into the bowl.
The tradition.
I've been eating them since I was a little girl. My son eats them.
The value.
You can buy all the imitations and not get Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
That make it part of a breakfast people feel special about.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes is tops.
Corn Flakes from Kellogg's. What more could you want from a cereal?
Kelly Gruber, who ran for Rance Mullenix in the 8th inning, stays in the game at third base. And we go to the 9th inning with Detroit holding on to a 9-7 lead before a capacity crowd here at Exhibition Stadium. The Tigers will have Kirk Gibson, Alan Trammell, and then Matt Noakes. You can see the Blue Jays have outdid Detroit. However, they have left more on base. They've left 10. Tigers have left a half a dozen.
You know, talking about those stolen bases, because as we mentioned, I don't think there's any situation dictated. It's just lousy holding them on and don't care. I mean, I'm going to leave it go at that. 6 stolen bases, only 1 of them have scored, according to my score sheet.
That's right.
Usually you get stolen bases, you're going to get some runs, but they hardly figured into the scoring here, and we've had 16 runs scored today.
The crowd, and it's a sellout, is the 2nd largest this year and the 3rd largest crowd in Blue Jay history. 46,429. The Blue Jays go over the 2.6 million mark. So 4 straight years they've drawn well over 2 million. Strike to Kirk Gibson, who has doubled, grounded out, walked, and struck out. He's 1 for 3. The Toronto franchise, born in 1976, and it's been on the move ever since. Gibson, meanwhile, a single to center.
Tell you, he had some ideas. He kind of stumbled rounding first base, but he was running very hard down there. Gets it right back up the middle, and he's going to be digging hard.
So Gibson with a walk, a single, and a double, and right behind him, Alan Trammell with a walk, a single, and 2 doubles. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch right in the middle of the lineup. Gibson, the number 3 hitter, followed by Trammell, the cleanup man. Trammell has hit in 15 straight. Strike. On deck, the left-hand hitting catcher, Matt Noakes. 9-7 Detroit. Top of the 9th inning. Noakes with 6 RBIs is the big guy in the game. And that's hit into left field for a base hit. The Tigers have not scored since back in the 5th inning. And that's when Noakes ran into Manny Lee. They have been spinning their wheels ever since, but now in the 9th inning, consecutive hits to put runners at first and second, nobody out. And Noakes coming up. Nunez throwing in the pen.
And remember, we got the pitcher following Noakes because of the DH, not DH business.
So Jimmy Williams with Jose Nunez in the pen. And the left-hand hitting Noakes coming up against the left-handed David Wells. Wells retired the side in the 8th inning, but now he's in some trouble in the 9th. 9-7 Detroit. 9 runs, 11 hits. The Jays, 7 runs, 14 hits. Strike. There's the pitcher, Mike Henneman, who's in the number 6 slot. Oh, 0-1 to Noakes. 2 home runs. One of them a grand slam. Hits a high fly ball into shallow right center. Mosby is there. So the run is hold. 1 out.
And Gramis wants to talk to his pitcher.
You would expect Henneman to bunt with 1 out and 2 on, to stay out of the double play, give Chet Lemon a swing. This is also his first major league at bat.
This would be one of those situations where you'd almost tell your pitcher, throw it right down the middle, not too much on it, but good stuff, and make sure he bunts that ball.
It'll be interesting, too, to see if Henneman has ever swung a bat for Sparky in practice so that he has any idea of whether he can handle it or not. The runners go. The pitch is a strike. They have the double steal anyway.
Telling you, they're getting jumps like crazy. You look just for the bunt play on that, and off second base, Gibson, and it's not even close. Look at there. Look how many. He had 4 steps on him.
That's 5 stolen bases for the Tigers today. Toronto has stolen 3. So with all the extra base hits, just for good measure, we've had 8 stolen bases. Now you have first base open, but you have a pitcher up there at the plate.
And you got to start talking about possibilities of a squeeze now. Witt's out there talking the way Sparky's been playing it. And when you say squeeze, if you're you see the guy break, where are you going to throw it? You're going to throw it outside? Are you going to knock the pitcher down, or what?
What a day Alan Trammell has had. He's had a walk, 2 singles, 2 doubles, and for good measure, 2 stolen bases. It's his 3rd 4-hit game of the year. And Jimmy Williams will now go to Jose Nunez and lift the left-hander David Wells. So Nunez will become the 6th pitcher.
This kind of ball game you see about the 3rd week of spring training.
Yeah, just about. The first 2 games of the series were tough, low-scoring, 1-run games, 4-3 and 3-2. This one has been wide open ever since Detroit struck with 2 out and nobody on in the first inning.
But in essence, it's been a tougher game than the 3. Right. I mean, it has had everything going. Great ball game for the fans to watch, and the managers have had to make moves. Guys they think are going to stop them don't. Guys are running, guys are hitting. It's all happening.
You wonder if Sparky's saying to him, I don't want you to swing.
That could be. You know, that's happened. The last time I had a conversation like that was with Gene Mock. He remembers a game where the managers walked up and said, just take every pitch. Don't swing. He might walk you.
He's never had an at-bat. He turned around as if to bunt, but that was really just to give Ernie Witt a bad time. Now, after listening to Sparky, he's probably carrying a message to Alex Grammas. And all the while, Jose Nunez continues to loosen up.
Or it's a charade. You don't know. You know, that Sparky finally finished his conversation, said, walk over to Grammas, and I don't care what you say to him, but they're going to be thinking that's a possibility of a squeeze play, so just go over there and just stand there, you know.
It might mean you take a pitch away from him if they call a pitch out.
Could be. I mean, it's the game you never see. Now, Witt's got to be thinking that. He certainly has to be thinking that, and so is Jimmy Williams.
Of course, then you got to say to yourself, would you put the squeeze on leading by 2 with a fellow who's never had a major league at bat? So we'll see.
The unpredictability of it all.
That's the fun. 2nd and 3rd. Gibson at 3rd, Trammell at 2nd. And Nunez from a stretch. Another strike. 0-2. Henneman was just trying to get out of the way of that one.
All right. Now I think if I was going to pitch out, this would be the pitch out.
Why, though? With 2 strikes, you wouldn't put a squeeze on, would you? 0-2?
Well, with this guy up there, I don't know.
With this guy up there, I would just throw it right down the middle.
There it is.
There it is. He's gone.
It was a safety squeeze.
So Henneman around as if to squeeze, but Gibson wasn't coming, and Henneman strikes out. He didn't come very close.
No, they're not a very good attempt. And Gibson at 3rd base, if the ball is on the ground, he's going to come. But if there's a 5-2 St. Louis in the 9th, you put a pitch out on, that would have been the spot, obviously.
So we have 2 down. Runners at 2nd and 3rd. Chet Lemon, the batter. Hard breaking ball for a strike. Lemon 0 for 3. Struck out, flied to right. Was charged with hitting into a double play. That was the ground ball he hit to shortstop. And Matt Noakes ran into Manny Lee. And he was called out. Little bloop to the right side and foul ground and up shore. So the Blue Jays got out of a big jam in the top of the 9th. And that sets the stage for the bottom of the ninth. Detroit 9, Toronto 7. Barfield, Upshaw, and Leach.
Balance. It is stability based on planned diversity. Rockwell International's continuous growth results from a balance of businesses. Outstanding performance in electronics, aerospace, automotive, industrial automation, and general industries. Rockwell International, down-to-earth management and opportunities as limitless as space.
Why is this man breathing like he left his cold at someone else's house? Taking the time to read a book instead of reaching for a tissue. Relaxing in his favorite chair with muscles that no longer ache. Laughing instead of coughing. Resting instead of suffering. Why? Because instead of taking a cold tablet, he took NyQuil. A nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head fever so you can rest medicine. Now a new cherry flavor, too.
Friends, the Major League Baseball game of the week has been brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft, cold-filtered draft beer. It's as real as it gets. By Buick, and again this year, as it has for 85 years, the Great American Road belongs to Buick. By the Prudential, offering a full range of insurance and other financial services. And by the people of Rockwell International, where science gets down to business. Bottom of the ninth inning, 9-7 Detroit, with Jesse Barfield, Willie Upshaw, and Rick Leach due up in that order. Those are the men who have gone to the mound today. And as Henneman warms up, back of him in the bullpen is Dickie Knowles. So 10 pitchers, extra base hits galore, 3 home runs by the Tigers, including a grand slam, 1 home run by Toronto. And now, bottom of the ninth.
And stolen bases galore.
8.
A lot of strategy for a 9-7 ball game, I'll tell you.
5 stolen bases for Detroit and 3 for Toronto. And finally, we get to the bottom of the ninth. Barfield, 2 doubles and a triple, but last time up was jammed on a 3-1 pitch with runners at first and third and hit a little foul ball to first base. That's the at-bat I'm sure he'd like to have over again. One ball and no strikes to Jesse Barfield. Willie Upshaw, left-hand hitter. And, of course, that breeze blowing out to right field makes him doubly dangerous. Strike. So just as in the 6th inning and again in the 8th inning, Bell came up as a tying run. Now in the 9th, they're hoping that Barfield can get a ball for Upshaw. 1-2. Mike Henneman trying to restore order. Tomorrow, Jim Clancy and Doyle Alexander right here on NBC. Little pop fly, and it might be trouble. It is going to be in there for a hit, and Barfield into second base.
Here we go again.
I can't believe this game.
We've been talking all day about how deep Chet Lemon has been playing. That ball was not hit hard. And Barfield is on, and here we go.
I'll tell you one thing. This game would never get through customs. So Barfield at second, nobody out in the 9th inning. Lemon unable to get to it. And Upshaw, Leach, and Lee due out. Ball one. Upshaw walked and singled, grounded out and flied out. The only inning was the 7th where they failed to leave a man. And they've left several runners at third base. Fouled off to the right and out of play. Back into this exuberant crowd. And another sellout tomorrow. Sure hope you'll join us. Spend part of Sunday with us. Toronto and Detroit. Showdown time in Canada next week in Detroit.
Well, you look at that scoreboard, and Detroit's leading by a safety.
9 runs, 11 hits for Detroit. 7 runs, 15 hits for Toronto. That forkball missed. And Dickie Knowles continues to warm up behind Henneman in the Detroit bullpen. There he is. Squirted up along third, charging Brookins. No play except for the shortstop. No good. He tried to get it to Trammell to get Barfield coming over. And the tying runs are aboard with nobody out.
Brookins looks towards first, knows he doesn't have a play, and then spots Trammell right here.
Was a do-or-die try, but no good. We have time, as Barfield was shaken up, and Evans talking to Henneman, to give you the 4 dramatic games played by Toronto this year. There's the squibber. Brookins will try to make a heady play. No play at first. Maybe he'd get Barfield, who landed hard, but he's okay. In April, when they were trailing to Cleveland 7-3, the Blue Jays scored 5 in the 9th to win. In August, they were down 6-5 and scored 2 in the 9th to win. Against Oakland in August, 6-5, they scored 2 to win. And of course, last night, 3 in the 9th inning to beat Detroit. Now they have the tying runs on, nobody out. Upshaw and Barfield aboard, and Leach 2 for 4 at the plate. And did it hit him? No sign from the plate umpire. They're going to argue the ball hit him.
They'll check that ball.
And Ken Kaiser is waving, saying, give him to first. He's going to get first base, and the bases are loaded with nobody out.
You could really see it hit him on the front leg, and McClellan was screened. Look at Kaiser. Kaiser calls time and says, go ahead. He's been very decisive on a couple calls today, that Noakes interference and now the hit batsman.
Lou Thornton will now come off the bench and run for Leach. So Thornton is at first, Upshaw at second, Barfield at third, nobody out. Bottom of the 9th inning. Detroit hanging on, leading 9-7. They have been hanging on, leading all day.
By their fingernails hanging on.
They were hanging on, leading 3-0. They hung on, leading 7-3. They hung on, leading 9-5. And they are barely hanging on, leading 9-7. Juan Benitez will come up and hit for Manny Lee, and Sparky is going to bring in Dickie Knowles. An incredible day in Toronto.
It's been a tough day for Sparky. It doesn't sound right, but what's been happening, he's been ahead, but playing like he's behind. It's just been incredible of what's happened here. And now another pitching change.
So Dickie Knowles, who was just acquired by Detroit recently, is now asked to save their bacon. But what a spot. The base is loaded and nobody out. In the inning, Barfield hit a bloop to center that dropped for the double. Upshaw squibbed one off the end of the bat, and now a hit batter. How about that for an inning? And this is a game, in a sense, you have to feel the Tigers must win.
Definitely. Two tough losses and having a lead the entire day. And now in the ninth with the bases loaded to lose it, you can almost hear it.
So imagine Detroit. They led 2-0 Thursday night and blew it. They led 2-0 Friday night and blew it. If they blow a 9-5 lead today and a 9-7 lead in the ninth inning, they're really hurting, Doyle Alexander or not.
They began with a 3-run lead in the top half of the first inning and blew it. They have been ahead and wondering, been ahead and hearing footsteps the whole afternoon.
So before a crowd of 46,429, the Blue Jays trying to get off the ground in the ninth inning. They're still trailing by 2. They have left 10 men on base, so the fact that the Blue Jays have men on doesn't mean anything today. And look at and listen to the crowd. Benitez, a veteran hitter, hitting .264 overall, but .338 since coming to Toronto. Ball 1. Barfield is at third. Upshaw at second is the tying run. Thornton at first is the winning run. Nobody out. And the bullpen has been burned up. There's nobody in the pen now. Benitez, 7 hits in his last 17 at-bats. He's been a blazing hot hitter. Ball 2. In his last 22 games, Benitez hitting .370. So Knowles has some job. Ball 3. A strike. 3-1. Barfield, Upshaw, and Thornton out on the line. Knowles in the spot. And Benitez at the plate.
And you know he's not taking this one if he likes it. He's got the green light. He took a good look at his coach.
3-1 to Benitez. Two. On deck is the young second baseman, Nelson Liriano. Hold on to your hat. Line drive, base hit. In comes Barfield. It's going to the wall. In comes Upshaw. Here comes Thornton to win it. Here it is again. The line drive up the alley. When it hit the rug in left center, it had gone to the wall. And all three scored. Barfield and Upshaw to tie it up. And Thornton, the pinch runner, to win it on the double by Juan Beniquez. Toronto scored 3 in the 9th inning last night to win it. And 3 in the 9th inning today to beat a Tiger team that has to have its heart broken. 10-9.
They had the lead, but they didn't have the feeling they were going to win all day long. And I tell you, the crowd waiting for Beniquez to come out.
Well, this week's NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game has to be Juan Beniquez. And Miller Lite happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Juan Beniquez to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. And if you were writing a lead for today's game, I think it would begin the Detroit Tigers coming from in front lost to the Toronto Blue Jays.
They had the lead but kept hearing the footsteps.
10 runs, 17 hits, no errors for the Jays. 9 runs, 11 hits, and no errors for Detroit. There